Hi friends, namaste. I'm Guru Eric, the Enlightened one. The one with all the answers. This is my beloved Guru girlfriend Rachel, female equivalent. Together, we're so enlightened that we banish nighttime itself. But today I don't want to talk about how great it is to be an enlightened guru. I want to share with you my experience of what life's really like as an enlightened guru, so you understand, hey, it's not all peonies and penny whistles. No, it's not all moon pies and mauve colored carpets. It's not all that. Being an enlightened guru is really, really hard. I've got to wake people up from their sleep that they're in, and at the same time, never for a second lose my own Zen perfection of being one with everything. So when you're really truly in this stage of development spiritually, like right now, at any moment, I can experience what it's like to be anything else on the planet or anyone else on the planet. Because I'm genuinely, literally one with them. Which basically means I can take over their body and make them my slaves.
Can you take over cartoon bodies too?
Well, only the physical object. So I could take over a celluloid, cell from an animated film, but I can't take over pixels temporarily manifesting that. There's a difference, yeah. It's a different kind of enlightenment. Different alchemy to it. Alchemy, of course, being the science of magic.
You are the magician.
That's right. So, naturally, right now, everybody here is, I'm sure, in a hushed, awed, respectful, reverent silence to be hearing the Guru speak. But I want to welcome you, my children, to voice your thoughts and to ask me your questions about how I can help you too know the serious, important enlightenment things that I know. Rachel knows them too, but she's my sign language interpreter. So, anyhow, why did I start live streaming right now? Well, basically, the answer is this. I had, what do you do in an, what do I do in an typo? Remove the N.
Do you find yourself embodying Capio?
I can. The thing is, most of the time when I'm projecting my oneness to realize the experience of another thing, it's like a rock or something.
Yeah.
That's why you've never seen me take over somebody's body before, because I'm so respectful of life and autonomy that I just take over rocks. Spencer Jones says, what do you do in a debate when someone plays dumb? I mean, that someone's much more likely to be me than the other person. But it's not really playing dumb when I do it exactly. It's just refusing to do your work for you, It's like, if somebody says something in a way that could be misinterpreted as meaning something else, I might, in a competitive argumentational thing, say, well, you said meh, 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 meh. I mean, how else am I supposed to interpret it? That's a form of playing dumb, but first of all, Spencer Jones, let me tell you that there's a possibility that the person is not plain dumb. So for a large portion of my life, I was under the mistaken impression that when people said they didn't understand me, they were lying and it was just a debate technique of sorts. And eventually I started to realize, no, like when somebody who doesn't have their ego attached to it says, I don't understand you, Eric, and they go, no, can you actually explain it to me? I really don't understand what you mean. After a few times, after a certain amount of times that you realize, you know what, maybe these other people who do have their ego attached but are telling me they don't understand me are also telling the truth. Oh yeah, we're gurus. We are gurus. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I went to guru school.
She got
So I got my certificate in being a guru.
I got grandfathered in under the old certificate program, where you just had to demonstrate a capacity to be at one with everything, and then you could get your permanent license. Yes, I am imparting wisdom of my ages, which is to say, the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic, and the Cambrian. Those are my periods. Those are my ages, my epochs.
Ooh.
My epochs. My slab wrangles, as they're sometimes called. Yeah, we successfully got Mom taken to the barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
It was, the mesotheliomic era. Well,
Mesotheliomic era.
Briefly between the Paleolithic and Mesolithic eras was the Meliolithic era. Mesotheliomic era, in which case the dinosaurs all died out from asbestos inhaling.
Oh.
Yeah, it was one of the weirder extinction events when the whole planet inhaled the best asbestos fibers and went extinct that way.
Now, as a guru, feeling the oneness, did you have an idea that asbestos was going to happen and try to convey that to the dinosaurs?
I mean, I wrote and issued out a thorough report of future history at the beginning of time.
Wow.
And I handed it out to all the significant stakeholders. And frankly, I don't think anybody read it. So, Ganesh and I have more, I guess what you say is a collegial relationship, less of a God-worshipper relationship. Ganesha sometimes worships me. Sometimes I give him a pat on the back if I think he needs some encouragement. That kind of stuff. But my most important message as a guru, of course, is that I'm enlightened, you're not, and you should probably give me some money. That's that's Guru School 101, right? That's probably the first thing I teach you in Guru School class, right? You were enlightened, the other people aren't, and they need
to get
they need to give you some money
to pay me to get enlightened.
See, in the ideal guru outcome, we end up in a large communal farm somewhere in Oregon, and everybody comes to live on that farm, and in order to do so, they give us all their stuff. They make a vow of poverty, and then they become our slave laborers, and we manufacture beaded purses, which are sold in boutiques across the country under the brand name Purse Time. It got very fiery for a period in Earth history, so the dinosaurs began using asbestos in their construction. Short-sighted in hindsight. But you know what they say about the road to hell. Hey, who can blame them? The other thing is, with those little teeny arms, T-Rex, he needed light things to lift up. He couldn't lift heavy things. And asbestos was light and he could reach up high compared to some of the other dinosaurs. So that's why they went with that too. That's why they also constructed their houses out of balsa wood. All of their living accommodations were balsa wood and asbestos. A deadly combination. So,
I try to embody the oneness of Capio as much as possible.
yeah. I notice sometimes when you're doing astral projecting, you're out of your body, I can see the spirit of your fire in Capio's eyes. I know that you're occupying her then. Rocky Marciano had T-Rex arms. Rocky Balboa had S-Rex arms. And Daniel LaRusso had R-Rex arms. Finally, someday, some boxer will have Z-Rex arms, where their arms are longer than the entire length of their body. Those are super long arms. Yeah. I was thinking in the car today about Walter the Walnut Man Nutwall. Walter the Walnut Man Nutwall was a great American pioneer, sometimes called Walnutty. He was a fixture of 19th century society in America. Because why? He started the famous 1870s walnut craze, in which everybody was constantly eating walnuts all the time. And when someone would ask them, hey, why are you eating those walnuts? They said, well, it's thanks to Walter the Walnut Man Walnutty Nutwall. And then they do a little Charleston, even though it hadn't been invented yet. So that's why today in history class we're studying the history of the walnut in honor of one of our city's founding fathers, Walter the Walnut Man Walnutty Nutwalls.
I have my walnut bread still.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about this guy in the car earlier. I didn't tell you about him, actually. Normally I share with Rachel those sorts of thoughts. But we were sitting waiting for my mother to get dropped off by the medical transport. And we were eating these Japanese walnut rolls. And I thought a good name for somebody would be Walter Nutwalls. I happen to be really into walnuts. Yeah. Jonathan Bizanti, the conversation Lady Lou with host Eric was how I began my morning. Two smart people, both of whom were kind of funny and interesting. Thank you for that. I enjoyed those videos as well. I actually watched some of them. I don't normally rewatch conversations, although I'll rewatch monologues by me. But if it's good and interesting, I will. I thought those were good. And they got good response too. People liked them and found them engaging. I like it when people timestamp things in their comments a lot. You know, like when they go ha 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 and they put the timestamp. That's great because then I get to see. Oh, is that a good joke I made? Let me hear what it is. Oh, it's just something Lady Lou said. Never mind. I don't care.
I was napping to the interview with Lady Lou. It was really good, both parts.
Yeah, they are, but both parts are good and interesting. Hi, Mac Daddy.
Hey, Mac Daddy.
I received an email from you that says go live, but because I have 8 slot SE, it took me 24 hours to actually do so. Actually, no, I did go live after you sent that email. This is the second time I've gone live since you sent that email. Walnutty Nutwalls. He was so into walnuts that when he died, instead of having his casket made out of walnut wood, he just got buried in a big pile of shelled walnuts.
Does having walnuts in your diet help with enlightenment?
Yeah, probably. I mean, well, we know for sure that pistachios reduce your likelihood of enlightenment.
Oh.
So they're counter-enlightening. One can assume, therefore, that walnuts are probably enlightening.
Why are pistachio nuts
Well,
to be enlightening?
because they come from Iran. Yeah, because so many of them come from Iran.
So they're unethical.
Yeah. Well, they're anti-oneness.
They're anti-oneness. Oh, God.
They're, all Iranian pistachios come in two. And if you want to be enlightened, what you need to do is trust in a single number over all other numbers. The number I'm talking about is not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No. Not 2, not 9. No. Not 0. The number I'm talking about is 1. Because Rachel and I and you and you and you and this are all really the same thing. And any notion that we're different is an illusion. It's an illusion caused by the fact that you're still asleep to the truth of oneness. Boy, I tell you, these walnut rolls we got at Cloverleaf this morning were packed full of walnuts. It's like, I might as well just eat a fucking bag of walnuts. This thing is so full of... And it wasn't like they were chopped up very fine either, They were big-ass chunks of walnuts. 1 is the loneliest number that you ever knew. But oneness is the solution to all solitude. Oh. Is somebody lighting incense?
I can.
If you eat too many walnuts, you can develop a debilitating condition in which all of your internal organs become the property of the walnut cartels. Well, obviously they've got little teeny repo men, Trojan horsed inside their walnuts.
I'm worried now because our walnut bread had a lot of walnuts in it.
Yeah, but I think that's only a problem with Mexican walnuts. If you get American walnuts, it should be fine.
Okay.
Because the drug cartels are all in the Mexican walnut business. The walnut is the fruit of all fruits that most looks like a sexual organ. It most looks like a reduced size scrotum and testicles.
Yeah.
And that's a proud claim for it to be able to make. I look more like genitals than any other fruit, and I'm not even a fruit. I'm a nut. It's in my name. Why do you think they call them walnuts?
Are they found in walls?
No. It's because the walnut is so hard that you can make an entire wall out of just one nut.
Out of just one nut, huh?
Yeah.
That sounds like anime.
Is it true that SI correlates to inner monologue? I don't know. But it might, okay? So I've heard from a couple of people before indicating a lack of inner monologue, and those people have identified as ENFJ. But I don't, or either they've identified as, or I've typed them as ENFJ. But I haven't actually checked to see if that's consistent, or if that was just a coincidence. It would make sense that it is, but I haven't kept that in mind. I haven't kept that in mind enough to be able to give you a good answer for that. What type would think like this? I feel an emotion, but I don't know what emotion it is. Let's look it up on an emotion wheel. Probably 8th. INTP might do that. ISTP. I don't think 7th would do that.
I was suggested once by a therapist to use it, but I never did. I had it on my phone, like a picture of the emotion wheel, but I never used it really.
I mean, the thing is, I never find that I'm using emotions to roll things around, so I have no need to form them in the shape of a wheel.
Oh, see, sometimes I like use it in down.
You're more of a wheelbarrow fan
Yeah.
than I am, so
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, some people do experience that, but I'm not sure if that's something that's some kind of like I once had a student who had what you might call a super extreme form of SI polar, but really he had some kind of learning disability. Now, usually learning disabilities are bullshit. Usually it's somebody imposing a frame bias on some student. But in that particular case, it didn't matter how many times he repeated like a sentence, he could never say it back word for word. And I think even the most SI polar person, if you give him a straight enough sentence like, I like to go to have some lunch with Jan, if you have him repeat it 10 times, they'll be able to repeat it word for word, right? This kid, it didn't matter how many times you had him repeat it, he always rephrased everything or phrased it a little differently every single time. It's like he had no capacity to imprint an exact wording of things. And that was beyond anything that I'd seen from like ENFJs or ENTJs. But accepting that, so in other words, I don't know if that lack of inner monologue is a freakish outlier like that kid that's oh yeah, Master Bobby, I'm here to cure your endarkenment. My gaze isn't just miraculous, it's spectacular. So you could call it spectacularness or miracular. Either way.
Oh. It's miraculous or miracular.
Yes. I do have a gaze of miracles. I've also got a snort. A snort of euphoria. Where I go. And it makes people feel euphoric.
What is smart kitty friend?
I've got a listen of transcendence.
You could have found a walnut.
Hey, it's a walnut. You know who'll like this? Walter Walnutty, the Walnut Man Nutball. I will heal you all now with my psych. Who has something that needs to be healed? Because we're both doing some spiritual healing today. We're gonna do a few things. You know, it's pretty exhausting. It takes a lot of focusing my chakras, my chis, my energies, my roots, my magical connections to the source, the oneness, the singularity of soul that is all of existence. And that enlightened people like me can dart around to various portions of willy-nilly as we feel like.
I'm on a walnut cleanse.
Who needs healing? You can come one hangout right now. What does that mean? You can come one hangout right now. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Thank you, men like gods. I spent nearly 5 minutes on it. Okay, well, do you need to inform us of that? I mean, you want to come on to this stream right now? Okay.
Do you want to become
Would you like me to?
one with the energy of post-art?
You want me to cure your endarkenment?
Endarkenment.
The state
Can I
of.
bring out I'm feeling
Hey, of course, yeah, you're enlightened guru too, Rachel. You can do whatever you want.
my enlightenment is telling me to bring out these gems, which I spent $45 on.
Oh, when did you get those?
Like 4 or 5 years ago.
Have I ever seen those before?
Yeah.
Oh.
These are teal swans.
Oh, those are teal swan cards. It doesn't say teal swan anywhere on them. I know them as the teal swan cards.
Oh, teal swan.
It says on the top and the bottom, right? Okay, cool. Let me open up this meow for this guy. Okay, if you want to... Yeah, I know. I know. And also, I'm not too worried because I can always just close the tab. You know.
Winston's mom, I'm gonna get your frequency card. This is what your frequency tarot card by Teal Swan says. Self-trust, number 22.
Self-trust. You've got to trust yourself. You got to trust yourself. Don't steal from yourself when you're sitting at your house, stealing all of your stuff for yourself. That's a bad idea. Yeah. Oh, Eric, why are you so silly? When did I become so silly? Is the question. Was it at birth? Did I grow into it?
I think you're like the star seeds. When you were a star seed.
I am a starseed. I am. If you plant me in the ground, a fission reaction begins. It's remarkable.
Lady Lou. Okay, so it's interesting. If you're interested, I would say get them if you're interested in them. However, like I have a book. And the instructions, like, she has it written for. So say you get number 29, which is joy. You get the right side up version and the upside down version. And like her descriptions are like, I think sometimes maybe TE.
Alright, there. There you go. There's the link. I was having trouble posting it, but now I have. Problem solved? Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Let's see, Lady Lou, you get festivity, number 18.
Now, if you listen to Teal Swan, what she has to say about it, it's going to say this. You're not being festive enough. That's what's wrong with you.
Yes!
Because that's how she writes about all of her cards.
Yeah, she does. Whether it's right side up or upside down, it has like a negative undertone to it.
Well, everyone's got spite monkeys in their lives.
Yeah, it's true.
You know. You can't live properly if you don't take a little chance that maybe this guy's gonna come in and shout some racist slur or something. I just whatever, just get rid of it real quick. But you gotta be willing to assume something better than that, you know. Hello, pop-up existence. You won't be able to see me in this room because my camera only goes to one of the two places and not both.
Oh. Just give me 1 second. I have to calibrate this. Because I want to see you. Now I just need to... Just give me 1 second.
Yeah,
Too
sure.
much chaos.
It's okay. I'm not in any hurry. We're just live streaming. Okay, so there. You see, he's not a bad person. He seems fine.
No, I have a YouTube channel as well, so I'm pretty fine. I'm going to come after you guys or something. You're in enough drama already. I don't want to stack more.
I don't give a fuck. Remember, I'm an enlightened guru, okay? I'm one with everything, so I'm immune to being bothered by such things. It just rolls right off my back. What's ailing you? What is wrong with you that I can heal right now? Because I've got a variety of magical spells that I can cast to heal you.
What's wrong is it? I don't know. The concept of free will kind of bugs me. What's your take on that?
Okay, so you want me to cure you of your
I want to
fretfulness
cure.
over free will.
That's what he said.
Okay, I will cure you over your
You know,
fretfulness of free will. This is the answer to the question.
No.
You are that if we can't even conceive of any kind of agency that's conscious without beginning with the foundational notion that consciousness expresses as free will rather than, I mean, it's how we distinguish between a conscious agent and an unconscious agent like a volcano.
But how are you defining conscious and unconscious? Like, what makes you say that volcano is not conscious?
Well, because it's not alive.
Like, what's your definition of alive? Have stuff moving inside you?
I mean, I don't really have a definition of alive, but what I'm saying is we do consistently make distinctions between things that are non-living, like this pack of cigarettes, things that are dead, like the leaves inside this cigarette. You know, you might call this dead because it once was alive. You might call the box, in theory, dead because once it was made out of something. But you wouldn't call this cup alive, even, or dead. You always call it non-living because even when it was made, it wasn't made. It may have been made out of something organic, vaguely, but it wasn't made out of something that in its most recent stage was alive. You know, it's been decayed into clay or something.
So the problem I have with that is it's a definition that you're getting from outside. It's not a definition that has any particular distinction from within, right? Because alive or dead is like is almost like a conventional notion. So we have collectively agreed upon saying that this cup is dead, a non-living thing, right? So is that the approach?
Well, what I'm saying is,
Coming from,
we need to remember that these distinctions we make of these kind of statuses, they're best thought of as creating the status distinction for the purpose of doing something, rather than as being thought of as representing something discovered. Because those kind of statuses are mapping statuses only, right? In other words, you are neither, in any meaningful sense, alive, dead, nor non-living. It's a classification system that I can use to explain to myself and others what kind of object you appear to be, or what kind of object I can expect you to act like. So there are functionally different kinds of objects, even if you were just saying taxonomying how they act or how you experience them. So I experience rocks differently than I experience people. Rocks don't move around, people do, right? And I experience wind different than I experience people. And animals even. I can startle a bird and make it go away. I can't startle the wind and make it go away. So I know that I have distinct kinds of experiences that I can taxonomy, right? The point is, when we're trying to say stuff like this is the status non-living, dead, or alive, what we're really saying is it's possible for us to make these distinctions. They're meaningful to people, and by making these distinctions, we always do so for some purpose, in some larger argument, or to make some point. It's not just for its own sake.
Sure, but is that the truth, Because I'm not after what makes people...
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Truth is a status we afford to statements for the purpose of argumentation. It's not... And while there are certain kinds of statements that you can validate with external linkages, like if I say this is a pack of cigarettes, I'm saying... Here, I'm making a statement about our shared visual data. So we can both confirm it independently. If I make a statement that says I'm feeling sad... presumably I'm the only one who can confirm it because it's subjective data within me, right? If I make a statement that says I'm classifying this set of symbols as invalid because it fails to articulate against a grammatical standard, then I'm using purely mapping tools, mapping words. They don't link to anything in the physical world. So their truth evaluation is different. So it's like the fact that we can't evaluate some statements about physicalities and treat them as though we can validate them against those physicalities is not a reason to think that all statements must validate such.
Yeah. So your definition of what's alive or dead and everything is on, like, it depends on the notion of time. Right? I'm assuming that's right.
I mean, I'm saying I'm not sure what argument is being undertaken that requires a definition for. In other words, how you would define those terms would depend on what you're trying to do argumentationally with them.
Yeah. So I want to understand free will in terms of truth. Which is unbiased. Like, I don't want to assume anything. Isn't that what truth is? If I assume something, that's automatically an assumption, not a truth fact.
No, truth doesn't work like that. Truth doesn't work like that. Look, truth is a status we temporarily afford to statements for the sake of argumentation. So if you and I can agree that this is an apple for the sake of argument, right? Then for the sake of argument, this is an apple. That all the argumentation we do predicated on that is based on the fact that this is an apple. And since we've agreed definitionally that this is an apple, then whatever conclusions we come are true within that frame of reference where we establish the ground. And the problem is when people try to do philosophy outside of those frames of reference, to say, I'm doing philosophy about the world and my argumentation is separate from myself and not engaged with any other argumentation, they're misrepresenting the way language works.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So are you then suggesting that you can never become conscious of truth in the first place? Because truth is not truth, but it's always a consensus based on a set of symbols?
No, I'm saying validity is universalizable, which is to say, to the extent that you remove meaning from the equation, then you can have absolute certainty regarding conclusions. You might call those conclusions deductively true or definitionally true. And you can be either accurate in naming something deductively or definitionally true, or you can be inaccurate, but the mechanisms by which you determine those things are all contained within it. It's fundamentally circular, On the other hand, to the extent that you move away from those definitional truths, then whatever your statements are referencing something that can't be definitively true because it's not reducible to a circularity.
Mm-hmm. So you're basically telling me that in a set of frame. So basically truth, everything, all symbols, all your definitions exist within a particular perspective that is decided upon a consensus that you have with you and the society or the other people or the system or something like that.
No, it's not decided upon a consensus. Look, people make arguments, and sometimes they predicate those arguments on statements about which there needs to be agreement among people. But there's actually a three-legged test for truth. Okay, so we're never going to be able to meaningfully use the term in the way you want to use it, because it requires us to test the what you might call truth bearer, truth conveyor theory of truth, which is that the world is true and we say words that are either more or less true about it. Then there's a correspondence theory of truth, which says words are true if we're using them in the same way. We mean the same thing when we say the same word. And then but there's a third leg that, like, epistemologists never really account for, which is you have to include intentionality into the equation, because it's possible to differentiate between lying and making a mistake, being wrong. So without intentionality, you can't factor in truth. And this is important because what you're trying to do is remove truth from the process of being human. But it's necessarily part of the process of being human. And so it's like when people make statements, the truth of them is a multi-layered thing, which both can be expressed like, is it literally true? These words literally true? Are these words conveying some truth but doing so in some metaphorical sense? Are they literally true but misleading and sort of wickedly advocating an agenda without acknowledging they're doing so? all of these are varying degrees of distinction we need to make, but they're not things implicit to the language or what's being said, but rather to the fact that language is always an expression of somebody.
Mm-hmm. So basically telling me that truth is something that is almost, you're saying truth is totally subjective. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying that we have deductive truths, definitional truths. So we use that capacity to define and limit our argumentational engagement such that because you and I agreed on meow, meow, and meow, and because I've successfully made the case that meow, meow, and meow means meow, and because you haven't rebutted those things, that at the end of the argument, all parties should agree that based just on what we heard here, we should agree with Eric or with pop-up existence, one of the two, right? But but that's all that we can really affirm there. The point is that reciprocal burdens apply as soon as anybody starts talking. So if you say something like, look, I'm defining this as meow, and then I use that against you later, you can't say, well, now I'm defining it as something different. So because it always plays out like that, it's it ends up constraining our ability to abuse language. But the key thing is, people are true when they speak or false when they speak in a variety of different ways. It is not the case that the words exactly are true or false, although we typically talk about it being that, because that's a way to hold people accountable for their words, to separate them from their words.
Mm-hmm. See, the only problem I have with that is you're basically then telling me that truth is not starting from any particular truth, it's starting from like assumptions that we both agree, and then we like build on top of that assumptions, and we assume that assumptions to be true. However, I don't feel that's true.
Right, because you're still considering truth to be something that exists outside of communicative actions. But it doesn't.
So you're saying truth only exists within the communication?
Well, obviously, yeah. It's a mapping tool that people use. In other words, truth doesn't exist in the world. The only proper use of the term, non-metaphorical use of the term truth, is when you use the term true or false and assign it to a statement. The only thing that can be true or false is a statement. Questions can't be, commands can't be, actions can't be, art can't be. We use it for all kinds of shit that's not a statement. But the only time we're using the word correctly is when we're using it to describe statements. Because statements are made out of language, they have this odd reality, which is they're static in their meaning more or less, but they're flexible in their meaning for people who are intuitively creative in some sense. So I can say a sentence that's literally true, knowing that you're on this page, and I frame walk you right on along, and not being honest at all, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where truth comes from. Is actually not a question of the legitimacy of words, but rather the question of how can we show that person's not honest.
So I feel honesty and all is like a judgment the way we use it. I don't feel it's any certain indicator of truth. But I think we can all collectively agree to that we can intuit that something must be true. So let's say we cannot find the truth, right? Let's say it's impossible. Then that would be the truth, you know. So there should be something that is the truth.
Well, no, there are plenty of things that are true, but the problem is they're true contextually. They're definitely true contextually. In other words, absolute truth and applicability are like directionality and location at the quantum level. The more applicable, the more real world application a given truth has, the less universalizable it is.
Yeah.
And so the fact remains that we can be certain about certain truths, but then we're doing a lot of deductive work, and all deductive work predicates on some axiom that's not having to be proved.
So like an assumption.
Yeah, an axiom that we agree upon because it's necessarily being done in language, right? So I might say I can deductively establish the negative rights calculus. In other words, that we don't need any kind of magical thinking to understand our negative moral obligations. That's assuming we agree on an axiom that slavery is an example of something that's morally prohibited. And then all the other arguments follow from that. It's basically, they follow from the concept of ownership, But without that axiom, you're not... the reason you can't do anything with language without starting with language is because that's trying to do something with language without doing something with language,
I feel that's false. Because language is just a set of symbols that point to a certain aspect of your direct experience. So let's say in front of you there's a cup and I say the word cup. So in you, the cup is just a symbol that points to an aspect of your reality. So language is almost like a language that helps us communicate, have a shared set of symbols that point to a shared set of direct experience.
So where's the truth?
The truth would be somewhere in the direct experience, no?
The truth is in the experience?
Yeah, where else could you find it?
Well, did you forget rule number 1? The word truth is only used correctly when applied to statements.
But I'm talking about absolute truth.
But
not the one where you start with the assumption.
When you say absolute truth, remember, all you have to do then, to explain what you mean here, is say which statement are you making that you're saying is absolutely true.
Absolutely true is a statement that no matter which perspective you
absolutely
take,
true is not a statement.
Still be true.
Absolutely true is not a statement.
No, I'm saying absolute truth would be something, some set of symbols, right? Where no matter what perspective you take, that symbols won't change.
Is that statement you just made absolutely true? I mean, I can give you an absolutely true statement. I can give you an absolutely true statement according to your definition. If A then B, and A therefore B. That's an absolutely true statement. 100% absolutely true according to your definition, right? It's indisputable by anybody.
No, I'm not saying there is a definition. I'm only saying hypothetically there must.
Okay, it meets your criterion then. Okay, it meets your criterion, right? Your criterion is that. Restate your criterion again.
It's a set of all sets.
Okay, so in other words, no matter what perspective you look, what you said the first time was no matter what perspective you look at it from, the same symbols mean the same thing, right?
It will still point to the same experience, yeah.
No, that's not what you said the first time, and that's false. It doesn't point to any experience when it's true. So an absolutely true statement is if A then B, and A therefore B. Note that it includes no experience at all. That's what enables it to be absolutely true. Because it's only about the relationships between the grammars and the statement connectives.
But the entire purpose of language is to point at some aspect of your direct experience.
Well, people have many purposes for language. And purpose is one of those other things like truth that's always begins with the individual agent. It doesn't begin outside of the individual agent.
Yeah.
So
when I'm
go ahead.
So when I'm using any set of symbols, no matter what set of symbols I use, end of the day, that's going to point to some aspect of my reality.
No, I mean it's going. You're going to either receive symbols, put out symbols, or get symbols by asking, Googling, or whatever, and you're going to engage those symbols in some way because you keep trying to extract you from the equation.
Sure, even I'm a symbol. Let's.
No, you're not. You are not a symbol. We have symbols we have symbols to name you.
Okay.
But you are not an object on the metaphysical field. I mean, you are maybe an object on my metaphysical field. So, in other words, I understand you as this name or this guy or whatever, but in no way, shape, or form are you a word.
Okay, so then what am I?
You're a person.
Okay, then how do you define a person?
I mean, the thing is, again, why am I defining person? For what purpose am I defining it? To establish. So what's in dispute? Let me ask the question a different way. What's in dispute? Are you disputing that you're a person?
No, I'm disputing the fact that the person, when you say the statement, I'm a person, is coming from a place of assumption rather than truth. So if something you're just assuming rather than coming from a place of truth.
Okay, so you're not questioning whether you're a
Is it
person. You're not. If I came up with a definition for person that would satisfy you, the only purpose it would serve is that you would feel as though it were a priori true and not and not a created set of words. But the only way I could express any communication with you at all about anything is to create a set of words and communicate it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that, you know?
But that's how language works. It's a symbol that points to your direct experience.
No,
So when
you keep
use any
saying
symbol,
that.
it points-
No, you keep saying that. Look, that's one way to interpret language, right? You can't. Some symbols point to my direct experience. Like, I am going to pull this bong rip points to my direct experience, right? If A then B and A therefore B does not, right?
It, it does, right? Because what you're then saying, it doesn't feel like it doesn't for you.
No, it doesn't, because that's not an experience. No, because that's not an experience. It's a descriptive or grammatical relationship to the statement connectives with variables put in place of words. So it is absolutely not linked to any of my experiences, unless you say the universality of conditionality existing is an experience of me, which is not. I mean, I operate via conditionality all the time. I'm attending to conditionality right now. I'm explaining to you why you're wrong using statements that are conditionally true. In other words, because we basically aren't cheating each other. In other words, we're not playing bullshit with the words on purpose just to be obfuscatory. Then, as a consequence, we're both using TI. In other words, we're both using inferred thinking, deductive reasoning to analyze the situation. But the thing is,
So you think
I've been
I'm
doing
a TI
this.
user?
What's that?
So you think I'm a TI user?
I don't know if you are or not. I'm saying the way you're arguing right now is a TI style of argumentation, which is to say, you're contesting what I'm saying by pointing to what appears to be to you a contradiction. Namely that because some statements are about physicalities, that statements in general or truth somehow links to experience. But it doesn't. In fact, the fact that this is a lighter may be true, and maybe something that we feel a very strong amount of agreement about, and that there's no way to dispute it. But it's not really any less disputable than saying this is a deck of cards. In either context, the only thing we have to reference is our shared visual data anyway, and the nature of language being such that this could actually be a teeny deck of cards made to look like a lighter, for all we know, you know. And so that's the reality of empirics. Empirics are always heuristics and never deductively certain. But to the extent that things are deductively certain, then they have less empirical link. And it's just as it's the case that you can't both be very verbal and very talkative and strong, dark, and silent at the same time. So too can you not have the absoluteness of deductive reasoning removed from empirics and have the utility and physical linkage of empirics concurrently. You have to sacrifice one for the other.
I think the point at which I disagree is that when you say, oh, if I set a condition, let's say I say an if-else statement, then even though it is language, it is not part of my direct experience, right?
It's not part of morality?
Right. It's not part of my direct experience is what you're saying, right?
Right. Well, if we want to mean anything with the word experience, so normally we distinguish between this kind of thing, which is an abstract or discursive exercise, and a more experiential phenomenon like going down a water slide. We are experiencing something, obviously. We're not going with that experience, but the fact is, people experience things in two fundamentally different ways, and they have access to both.
Yep.
One of them is real time, which is stuff that it matters how fast you go. So when I'm saying these words, it may matter to some extent. There are real-time considerations how fast I say the words. But if I say them a little faster or a little slower, they mean exactly the same thing. This is what you call a turn-based reality that we're dealing with right now, a metaphysical reality in which you and I exchange turns saying things. And we expect the previous person's words to be impacting the next line of argumentation, right? But then there's also an experiential world in which it's real time, in which there is no, right now we're pretending like everything in the world is waiting for us to finish talking. Because we're existing in a turn-based reality, because right now we're engaged in action on the external metaphysical ecosystem. But if we were not this kind of people and we were out jogging, then we'd be experiencing a different kind of thing, and we can distinguish between the two because of that durational aspect. It's a clear criterion and a meaningful one. So to call anything experience is to make the word experience mean nothing, just as to call every direction up is to make the word up mean nothing.
Yeah. So then So with that, if you like take that and reduce it a bit further, then the word experience would be a symbol that points to your experience that's devoid of any symbols. You would agree?
But say it again. A word that points to your experience, but what?
So what you're basically suggesting is just saying, you mentioned it. You said, oh, if I just take this argument further, then the word experience wouldn't mean anything. Right?
Well, I'm saying,
you said
what do you just, when you say that truth links to experience, give me an example of something that's not experienced that truth therefore doesn't link to.
There is nothing that truth.
Okay, then you don't mean anything with the word. Then you don't mean anything because you're not drawing any distinctions.
No, I do mean something, because when even you concluded the same thing. Basically, experience is a word that points to an experience that is devoid of any symbols, pointing to it.
Look, if you want to use the word experience to mean any manifestation of humanity across time, then that's fine. We can define it as that.
No.
But then we'd have to have another word that means real time human manifestation across time instead of turn-based. We'd have another word to distinguish between those. So if you want to co-opt the word experience to mean a totality of all manifestations of human existence, and remember, we have no reality except as it is manifest by an individual. We aren't. It's a mistake to think of us as all sharing a common physical reality. Instead, it's more like we're each rendering a massively multiplayer online role-playing game on our own computer, right? It much more like that. So when we remember that there's nothing you can say, nothing you can reference, nothing you can ever point to, nothing you can ever do, know, think about at all that isn't first observed in some way by an individual human being.
So the problem of your argument is you're assuming the order of stuff.
No, it's not an ordinal thing. It's not an order. I did not ordinate that. I said it is never the case. You can never you can never talk about anything. You nor I can ever talk about anything, reference anything. Nothing that comes out of our mouth will ever not predicate upon, right? It's not just for one comes first, one comes second. It's a relationship of supervention. The former, the latter predicates upon the former. So it's not. No.
No, you are, because when you say experiences across time, right? You're assuming that time comes first, and on top of the blanket of time, you have the experience, right?
No, I'm saying is that. Okay, well, let's just put it this way: human manifestation of human being. Okay. That will encompass everything in the universe. Everything we know, everything we think, everything whatever.
Including time or including time?
Well, remember, time is a word that we use to explain things to each other and hold each other accountable for arriving places and things like that. When you try to think of time as a physics concept, then you're trying to kick Einstein in the balls and make out with Newton. we have to understand time in a more nuanced way than that.
Okay. So you're saying time is a human construct rather than...
No, I'm saying that time is a part of being human. So it doesn't, it is necessarily that for the reason I already articulated. We can't talk about anything, blah, 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 except that it begins with some sort of human observation.
Sure.
So
okay.
and we know time is experienced not as an objective reality. Sometimes time moves faster for us, and sometimes time is really slow when it's boring, right? Sometimes time moves torturously slow if you're in pain. From our experience, we know that we render time in ways that are inconsistent with the steadiness of non-conscious agents moving across the sky, right? So it's like, to the extent that we're going to try to treat time as though it were existent via the demonstration of those objects moving across the sky, we are definitely putting the cart before the horse.
So according to you, which one is it? You have the experience and you're defining time in the experience, or do you have time and you're experiencing a facet of time? You see, there's an important distinction.
Okay, well, let me get this right. So is your blood going into your heart and getting oxygen, or is it coming out of your heart and delivering oxygen? Which one is it?
So when you're using the word delivering, that depends on the concept of time, right?
No, the answer is what's the answer to my question though?
So that's the thing.
My point is that it's not inconsistent, right? Those two things that I'm presenting as inconsistent, that the blood goes into your heart to get oxygenated, and that it leaves your heart to deliver oxygen. Those two things aren't inconsistent with each other. They're not mutually exclusive. And the two things you presented to me are like those two things.
So you're saying time is existence?
No, I'm saying you choose to treat time as an object of analysis because that's how you want to pay attention via words. And you would like everything to be fundamentally subject to mapping realities above all else. But the fact is, when you're trying to get me to define whether or not experience happens in time or whatever, right? You're saying, what prepositional phrase should we use? Remember, that's all you're asking. And you think you're asking something else. I can tell you which prepositional phrase we use conventionally, but I mean, it's like, that's not a meaningful question, right?
I mean,
again, you're mistaken. You think a prepositional phrase is a lot more powerful than it is.
okay.
So it's like, we are not experiencing in time. We are not whatever, any of those things. Each of us is currently manifesting a self. And we are having a conversation, right? You might try to say, well, is time passing or is time not passing? Well, by all conventional definitions, obviously time is passing. So, but how do we really know that's really time passing? Or which goes in which? Well, those things don't exist in a definitional distinctions like that. In the sense that I can't even conceive of any expression of reality that doesn't, the conception of any expression of reality predicates on a notion of change. Of a notion of some kind of time passing. In fact, the fact that I can even conceive of a reality is predicated on me having
change,
a beginning of a concept and an end of a concept, right?
Yeah. So now is that change coming from, is that change something of your doing, or is it an inherent quality of your experience?
Both.
Which one is it?
Both. Again, yes, it can be both. It's both. Just like, look, a human being is two things fundamentally. They are an object in space, and they are a metaphysical being called an identity. Which is to say, while if if you sacrifice either of those, you cease to be human. Okay, and what this boils down to is attentional manners. So what you're saying is, if we were to reduce the fluid into binaries, then these are the binaries I prefer. And and then you're saying, now Eric, the problem here is when you're trying to reduce the fluid into binaries, it's no longer retaining its actual fluidity. Well, nothing retains its actual fluidity when we talk about it. So when we use symbols, we're using static representations of things that we both understand somewhat differently. If I'm talking about a dynamic system that operates according to a principle of diminishing returns, you and I both have some concept of what that means. And yet, it's slightly different than each other's concepts. But it doesn't really matter because it's one of those kind of mapping words that conveys a conceptual relationship rather than something more specific or concrete. So the gray areas of the meaning wash out in the mix. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but the real thing I really want to inquire is the distinctions that you're making. Let's say even the binary. The moment you notice something is binary, left, right, up, down, any duality, let's say, is that duality a product of you, or is it an inherent quality of reality? Is it something of your doing, or is it something of that's just there? Which one is it? I'm asking. I'm not.
So the answer is, individuals draw distinctions between things, and or affirm distinctions between things, and or negate distinctions between things. Now you're asking, do those distinctions exist in reality? Well, reality is the problem word here. There are two fundamental realities. There's a metaphysical ecosystem called this internet. Do you and I exist in reality in the same space? Well, communicatively we do. And it's no less real than if for the communication half of it, it's no less real than if we were in the same room. In fact, it might even be more real. Maybe if we were in the same room, you'd be so distracted by how bad I smell that you'd be unable to speak straight, you know?
I don't doubt that, yeah.
Yeah. So the point is, the reality you're talking about is two realities, not one. It's a metaphysical reality of turn-based communication, and it's a physical reality of real-time stuff happening. And when we talk about stuff happening, we use the real-time communication half of reality, but we're not talking about that half, and we're always reducing it to something that's less high resolution. There's a low resolution processing and there's a high resolution processing, you know?
You're like cutting off. Your voice is like, I can't hear you anymore.
Okay. Well, what I'm saying is we have two ways of processing things. High resolution is to actually experience your experiences, okay? So if you get in the bath and you're like, oh yeah, this feels so good, right? That's one way of experiencing things. But if instead of experiencing the bath, you're sitting in the bath the whole time thinking about why Eric's wrong, you're not experiencing the bath, you're ideating. You're generating thoughts and words in your head.
Yeah, but you just mentioned that there are two types of reality. The one, the real one, and the metaphorical one. But you're talking as if it's something that is out there and you're noticing it. However, I feel it's something that you have created.
No, I agree with you. It's not. It's stuff we're manifesting. In other words, this reality is entirely of our creation, but the field upon which it's manifesting is not. So we didn't create the internet, you and I, but all of the content on the field is being generated by us. This reality is being made as we're having this conversation. And the good news is, it's not going to dissipate like fog into the air, because it's being rendered into what we would call a time object or a turn-based object, which is something that has identity but not attributes. A video, right? Like it's got an identity, and we can experience it by watching it, but it doesn't have attributes like height and weight, length, width, or whatever. And it's not subject to the law of non-contradiction. Multiple people can be watching the same video in different locations without having to share a single object, you know?
But I have I have a problem with the word creation. And the question is, are you creating something or are you just observing it?
No, I create stuff when I talk, for sure. And I can give you an example of why it's creation. What makes it creation is that I take disparate elements and put them together to make something new that what didn't exist before. So, for example, I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to first take an element from my sight here, the cigarette box. So now I'm going to tell a story about a cigarette box. Then I'm going to take an element from my memory, my personal experience. I'm going to say, this is a story about a cigarette box that was left on a picnic table in a campground in Oregon back in 1989. Because I started smoking, I started smoking back in Oregon on a trip I was on in 1989. So I'm going to take that setting from there. That makes it particularist. And then I'm going to tie in some NI thing. Well, what does a pack of cigarettes on a picnic table sitting by itself elicit in one's thoughts? Maybe it's a trap. And maybe this story then evolves as a hobo trap, where somebody's a serial killer killing hobos, and what he does is he leaves a full pack of cigarettes on this picnic table, and blah, blah, blah. So then I told you the story, I created it, right? It's made out of pieces of things that already existed, but because I put them together into a complete packaged whole that has its own identity now, it's a creation, not a discovery.
So by creation, you mean taking stuff that already exists and putting them together?
Well, that's one. What I'm saying is, we know that you can't negate the fact that I'm creating it because I can demonstrate the process by which I create it. Whether you want to call it not creation because it doesn't start from nothing and make something, well, I mean, the weird thing is, it really does start from nothing and make something. It's just that I don't have nothing. So just because it starts from nothing doesn't mean I have no memories. It doesn't mean I have no capacity to look around me. And it doesn't mean I have no intuition. Sure. I start with nothing, sure. And using those tools, I create something that did not exist prior. Last night on the fly in a stream, somebody asked me, "Can you tell a story?" Right, I want a bedtime story, said Octavia Silva, and I told this very extended, not super long, I guess, but a good length story about all of us and the people in the chat going to a Mayan pyramid in Mexico where we all died, unfortunately. But anyway, the point is, that story now, we can all reference it and talk about it and make jokes about it. Like, it's too bad we all died in Mexico or something, and we'll know what we're each referring to. Because now a common point of reference existed that didn't exist before, and the only difference between it not existing before and it existing now is me making it up. So it's like, to try to remove the word creation from that is to, again, remove all meaning from the word creation, right?
Yeah, so the way you're using the word creation, there is something that is existing, and from that, because honestly, I feel the argument where you're creating from nothing doesn't make that much sense, because if you truly have nothing, I don't think you can create anything.
No, I agree with you. Obviously, what I'm saying is, it counts as creation, because if it didn't count as creation because it was built off existing things, then it would be no meaning for the word creation. Nothing comes from nothing.
Sure, you can create nothing from nothing, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the point is, if you want to say that we're not creating this reality right now, then you have to take all the meaning out of the word creating.
Yeah. But the original pursuit here is truth. The real question that I'm trying to understand is, what metric are you using to identify something to be true?
Okay, well, I can tell you that easily. Whatever is the strongest argument. In other words, the reason what I'm saying right now is more true than what you're saying across the board is because my arguments are better. That's it.
I never said anything. I'm only asking questions.
No, you said plenty of things. You make it clear that you disagreed with certain points. You said multiple things. You have been asking questions the last few minutes, but you have stated on multiple occasions statements that disagreed with what I was saying and were wrong. So that's not true. You have made claims.
Okay. Like what?
Like, I disagree with that part because something true is always linking to your experience.
Yeah.
You said a variety of things like that.
Yeah, but I'm just paraphrasing what you said.
No, that was your claim that you made after stating I disagree with you because I think meh.
Sure. Maybe.
Do you disagree with what I just said? So what is... Because you've attempted to state a position several times that I'm somehow evading and avoiding a reality about truth that you're affirming that's distinct from my own perception or my own description of it. So explain it to me then.
The only thing the real question is what is not true. Let's go the other route. What is not true, really?
I mean, the thing is, the bottom line is, if you have conflicting truths, you have to eliminate one. By continuing to use the verb to be, you engage in metaphorical speech. Because English prime is the way to truth and justice in the American way. Which is to say, when you speak in terms of subject, transitive verb, object, then we speak real things. So what is untrue? Well, rather the question is, what would I need to say to establish that mya is untrue?
Sure. So from your understanding, do you feel God is a noun or a verb?
Do I feel what is a noun or a verb?
Is God a noun or a verb?
God?
Yeah.
I mean, it's I've never heard it used as a verb. I've never heard anybody God anything. Like, if I God you, does that make you into a god?
Oh my God.
But it's still a noun if you say, oh my God. To use it as a verb, I have to say, I'm going to God that cat. Which I guess would mean turn it into a god.
You can do that.
Oh, you can't do that. Okay, so then obviously it's a noun.
Okay, so if God is... So do you believe in God? I think you're an atheist person, right? But
I'm a Christian.
The arguments you make.
I'm a Christian.
Okay.
And I don't affirm... Because I'm a good Christian, I understand the nature of magical thinking. So I recognize that any attempt to affirm statements about faith is undermining faith, because faith definitionally is belief in the absence of evidence or in the face of contrary evidence.
Yeah.
Faith is a behavior. Faith is a behavior, not an epistemology. Faith is not an epistemological matter, and everybody's got it wrong. It's a behavioral matter, like jogging or something.
Okay. So your argument is basically like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. It helps me with my...
No, it's not I don't give a fuck. It's that I do give a fuck. So I'm Christian, and I understand what that means. It means I engage in faith-based behavior called prayer to a God outside of me. The problem is, a lot of people think that means I need to affirm certain statements about God, like God exists, or God doesn't exist, or God is Jesus, or whatever. I am Christian and I believe in Jesus. I pray to Jesus, but I don't affirm statements about that shit, because that's not the kind of thing that one uses logical arguments to discuss. It's a faith-based magical thinking frame. It's not I don't give a fuck, it's that I use it properly and understand it properly. I do give a fuck. It's the opposite.
But by give a fuck you mean you put in the time to actually follow the faith rather than question it, is what you're saying.
I mean, what I'm saying is I pray to God.
It's completely fine. I have no problem with that. I'm just asking what you're meaning. I'm trying to understand what you're meaning.
I pray to God, and I believe that relationship to be very significant, and I take it very seriously.
Yeah.
So, what's the problem with that?
I don't think there's any problem with that, but where are you crossing the line between faith and truth? Because which is more important is...
Well, I mean, obviously, a fully realized person has a magical thinking frame that they can apply in context where magical thinking is appropriate, and that wouldn't be the adjudication of truth of practical matters of the world, right? That's not an appropriate context for magical thinking.
What do you mean by magical thinking?
I mean, well, belief in the face of contrary evidence or in the absence of evidence.
Okay.
That's magical thinking.
Okay. So, but that doesn't answer the question. So, which is for you more important, the faith or the truth?
I mean, it's like saying, which is more important for you, eating or sleeping? You think faith and truth are in contradiction to each other because you're not understanding what I'm saying about faith. Faith doesn't get adjudicated in that court of law, so to speak. So as a consequence, it's the apparent exclusivity of it is not exclusive because you're never applying them in the same time. Like, in other words, whatever you're applying magical thinking to, is not appropriate for logical thinking. And whatever you're applying logical thinking to is not appropriate for magical thinking. And when you're saying, yeah, but justify the truth, well, that would be a matter for logical thinking. So I wouldn't include faith in that equation.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
But justify your faith.
Asking,
well, no, I don't need to justify faith because it's a behavior, not an argument.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to like mix faith and truth. I'm not trying to like make them fight against each other. I'm only asking which is more important to you personally.
I mean,
because
truth
faith and truth are not the same thing. You know, one is an assumption, other is the truth.
Which is more important to me. I mean, put it this way: truth is an operational value for me in the sense that I expect people's words to be rigorously parsed out and be good, strong arguments and account for a bunch of other good, strong arguments that aren't going to be movable because they're too set by lots of other good, strong arguments, right? So I expect that, and that means that I integrate this issue of truth into my life all the time as I'm integrating it right now. And also, I don't think this is a way that this conversation is a way that I grow. I think it's a way that other people grow if they listen to me and I'm not being too much of a dick about it. Whereas I think faith is the way that I grow.
People would grow?
Because I understand it better. I understand these sort of questions that you're asking, not only better than people who ask me these questions, but as far as I can tell, better than anybody on the planet. I know it sounds ridiculous, but as far as I can tell, I understand these sort of philosophy questions better than anybody on the planet, because to truly understand them, you've got to embrace cognitive functions as a metaframe. And probably there aren't any other qualified philosophers out there who've done that.
I don't feel the way you're answering my question backs up what you're telling.
I mean, I don't want to back that claim up. Look, if you want to negate that claim about me, that's fine. I don't give a fuck. I'm just saying.
Sure.
I'm just saying. You asked like, how do I benefit? How does it benefit others? That's what I think. You might disagree with that, and that's fine. I don't care about my status. All right. The point is, whether or not I'm special or not, I don't need to be special. The point is, if you want to believe all of my words are sourced from some imaginary expert out there who's really important, who really should get credit for stuff because he deserves, he's got all letters after his name and everything, imagine my words are all made up by that guy, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That's okay. The biggest problem I have with see, for me or for anybody, the understanding of truth is clear. I would define it to be clear. If it's not dependent on any authority figure or dependent on any other person's words. Truth should be something you should be able to derive ground up, solo. Even if you're alone in a deserted island and never seen a human before, you should reach to the same conclusion I did. That is true.
Okay, but here's the problem. But here's the problem.
Sure.
Most powerful truths are synergistic. So it is the case that though we can't properly use the word true for things other than statements, that if I've got 3 parts of a song put together and I listen to it enough time, what bass line is supposed to go under it will at some point come to me. It'll be clear to me, okay? Now, you could call that a form of truth in that it's the correct, in some aesthetic sense, baseline. Can I prove that? Absolutely not. There's zero way to deductively prove that this is a great song and that's a shitty song. But such statements are just as objectively so or not so as statements that you can make logical arguments about. And so the thing is, when you're talking about truth the way you're talking about it, you're talking about it like a deliberator. Somebody who's determined to parse out with his own thinking and delay affirming anything the status of truth for as long as possible. But that's how deliberators act. It's not how other types act. For an action type like me, I need to settle on which truth we're working with here so we can move forward and do progressive discursive work. For an interfacer like Rachel, she's expecting to recognize truths on the fly so she can interface with the other parties involved, which means she's not going to be recognizing complex deductive truths, but rather holistic truths. And those things are not, it's like, again, at this point we've expanded the word truth to acknowledge the fact that not everything is deductively determinable, and to the extent that you want to reduce everything to something that can be argumentationally supported without any axioms, it's like you're not getting the limited role that each of our favorite thing plays in the world. So I can't get by in the world just making up funny songs all the time, even though that would be fantastic. Yeah. The world is more complicated than that. The same thing is true for your relationship here with reality. Reality won't reduce linguistically. It won't let you encompass all of it with your preferred approach attentionally. You've got to you've just got to say, well, okay, in certain contexts, this kind of reasoning and this kind of argumentation is going to be absolutely appropriate and it should win the day. And yet it doesn't mean that any statement one makes in order to be true ought to be reducible. Because if you want to make true statements about things that aren't true for reducible reasons, then that you're going to have to accept some holistic shit into your worldview,
Sure. But I guess this topic is too boring for other people here from the comment section. But I thought you had something about spiritual healing, and I thought Rachel had a book.
Oh yeah, I was going to heal you, but then you got me distracted talking philosophy. I've got lots of magical spells to use on you. But you didn't tell me what was ailing you. You just told me you had a problem with the concept of free will. Like, that's not a disease. That's not a disorder. That's not you suffering physical harms. I want you to tell me about your headaches, your back aches, your neck aches. Go ahead. Share with me your physical ailments.
So, does it work though? That's a real question.
My magic? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
okay.
I'm probably the most powerful wizard you're ever going to meet.
Can I throw some shade?
You going to throw some shade on my wizardry? Okay, go ahead.
No. I don't think Melissa thinks so, no?
She may be increasingly thinking so. Wow,
Sure.
My stupidity sure did backfire on me. I bet is a thought that's crossing her mind occasionally at this point.
I feel, I honestly couldn't believe she took a week off work because she made a passing comment. I feel that's very...
I mean, did she really? Was that true? It's like, I kind of wonder about that. Did she genuinely take a week off of work because of my Type Police video? Now, granted, she said there was some other shit going on, but, like, who gets so upset about something on the internet that they take off work?
It's a very good question because I'm in a pursuit of truth as well. The one thing that really did bother me about the entire video, one is, of course, apart from all the biases, there is no any proof. She said a lot of people send her death threats or like harassing or something. Sure, maybe like couple of guys, but
Maybe.
Based on the number of views she get or anything, I don't think there are like.
I haven't seen the proof. For me, it might be true, might not be true, unless you like show me something hard evidence. You know what I mean? Like because it's a pretty harsh claim, no? Like you are harassing her. I don't know what the fuck you told her, or are you even texting her because she wrote somewhere that a guy was texting her in Discord?
Yeah, and this is something I actually made a clarification. No. I made a clarification on a video the other day that said, because of all these general lies being spread about me, there seems to be some perception that perhaps I've actually been communicating with her. I have never sent her one text, one email. I've never commented on any of her videos. I've never sent her any DMs on any platform. The only way I've engaged her at all is by making videos about her on my own channel. So I have never had any direct communication with her of any sort. I've never attempted to contact her, nor do I have any interest in doing so.
Have you ever sent someone else to contact her?
No, of course not. First of all, this isn't that kind of channel, and my people who are hanging around here are not sheep. They don't do what Eric says. Okay, that's just ridiculous. But even if they did, I would never tell anybody to go harass anybody. I don't give a fuck. I do not give a fuck about that one. As soon as I'm done with that video, that shit's in my rearview mirror. Unless some explosion happens behind me and I go, what the hell's going on back there? And stop and pull the car over and look, it's in my rearview mirror. I could not give a fuck whether people meow, meow, meow until she pisses me off. Now I give a fuck, and I don't want her to continue getting away with an ENP, with calling herself an ENP, because she pissed me off, and now she deserves to not get away with it. But that's just me being petty, you know.
I mean, to be honest, she completely stepped on you and just she's fine, man. I mean, you're the one who's losing. So, I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, I'm fine too. I'm not. I was actually surprised to hear you say that, because, from my perspective, and it's not accurate, but it is what it is that once I put up a video correcting possible misconceptions, then that's been corrected on the flow, and I don't need to think about it anymore, you know. But of course, it doesn't work that way. Regardless, it does work that way if you choose to live that way.
I feel it is an unjust judgment, because dude, she claimed you of harassment, and the problem with the law itself, I even posted an article, is not about what's actually, it's about how they feel, you know. If they feel harassed by whatever you did, it really goes. So it's not.
No, that's not how it plays out in American courts.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. It absolutely does not.
Maybe not in court, but the term harassment.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe in the public court of opinion, but not in a court of law. In a court of law, I would walk out with Melissa's money. She wouldn't walk out with mine. Because she actually slandered me. She actually defamed me in a way that's legally defensible. I can make the case against her if I want to, and I would win that case because the evidence is on my side. I have evidence of her saying false statements about me that are defaming. There's nothing equivalent that she can point to.
But the real question is this. Even though let's say she's completely wrong and you're completely right. Of course you are, but let's just assume and put it in a hypothetical, right? Even still, even if you were completely right, the general opinion of the public isn't so bright, because the way she presented the information in a very, the way she did, it's like what's the point of being true if it's not recognized, you know? If the quality of the truth is not being recognized by the people around you, then how do you course correct that? You see what I'm asking?
I mean, I haven't experienced the people around me not recognizing that truth. I think that everybody, you are less absolutely convinced that I'm completely right than anybody else here probably. And so it's like I don't experience that. Because the reason I don't experience that is because nobody can actually defend the claims she's made. And so to the extent that people attempt to comment or direct that kind of shit at me, it doesn't play, it doesn't fly. As like, you know, this guy tried to come out and get me with by harassing me to get a taste of my own medicine, right? And he called me and texted me and left voicemails and stuff. And I said to him, finally I said explicitly, I said, okay, look, hey, I'm making an official announcement here. I don't want you to text me anymore or call me or blah, 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 okay? Knowing, of course, that he would immediately thereafter text or call me again, which he did. And I said, there. Now, that's what qualifies as harassment, okay? And what was the key factor here, mister? You doing these various things. But here's the other key factor. You say you wanted me to get a taste of my own medicine. I said, I never did any of these things to anybody.
I mean, the real question I'm asking is,
Does it bother you that the presentation style of someone influences the perception of a person perceiving what is actually true? I feel
I
you
feel
are at
you are
a
at a
disadvantage not because you're wrong or right, but rather because your presentation is not in a more professional setting compared to hers.
I mean, I don't really care because whenever
I know you don't,
whenever it
of
comes
course.
down, no, but the point is this: whenever it comes down to it, everybody's either not going to say anything to me about whatever bullshit they believe about me, or they're going to say something to me about whatever bullshit they believe about me, and that will be buried under an avalanche of my rightness and will just help my cause. So, in other words, I never have to face any of these wrong perceptions except as opportunities to correct them.
Yeah. But but your authority is not only coming from whether you're correct or not, but also from your presentation. Yes.
That's not authority, that's persuasion. So, in fact, I've wanted to make a
Sure.
video about this. Persuasion is, unfortunately,
It's not driven by truth, is what I'm saying.
right.
We can both agree on
Look,
that.
persuasion and good argumentation are different things. Good persuasion and good argumentation often run afoul of one another. And somebody said to me in a comment one time, like, if you're such a great debate coach, why aren't you more persuasive? Because I'm such a great debate coach. And I understand that debate argumentation is a war. One side wins and one side loses. It is not a negotiation. And so, as a consequence, it's not correct to think that it's a good idea to be persuasive with language. Persuasion with language usually involves misleading people. Instead, you just be right and know that ultimately it trickles down. So what is the case is that over time, unsustainable bad arguments are unsustainable and lose the argument. So over time, the arguments against gay marriage ceased to have any footing to stand on. There was nothing to stand on except for the reality that we don't like gay people. And so ultimately, any reasonable person had to say that since the government affords tax status to people who choose to enter in this kind of legal relationship, they have to let every adult enter into that kind of relationship. And being gay precludes them from entering into that kind of relationship with a woman or a man accordingly. So you have to have equal protection of the law. It cascades down from the Constitution, and accordingly, it was unsustainable to continue to argue against it and win those arguments. Eventually, the policy changes.
Wait, are you saying that? So, are you saying gay marriage is good or bad?
I'm saying it became unsustainable to make arguments against it because it didn't have any good arguments, and all the best arguments eliminated that question from the equation. In other words, the determining argument doesn't answer that question. The determining argument says equal protection under the law plus the reality that marriage is a legal institution in the eyes of the state that about which it affords certain benefits and or doesn't. Because those two realities combined, it's impossible to sustain arguments precluding certain consenting adult individuals from entering that kind of relationship without engaging in unequal protection of the law. That's the determinant argument.
Are you telling which is more true? Are you telling gay marriage is a thing and that is true and that's what it's moving towards, or are you saying it's not true? Which one is it?
Well, what I'm saying is that anybody can get gay married for all of human history just by picking some random third party to say you two are married. So to the extent that marriage just means that, then there's no problem. The issue isn't with gay marriage, right? It's with a legal contradiction that the government affords certain legal privileges to people with the status of married, and so they might be able to claim that they can afford a certain privilege to an optional status like that, but then they can't deny everybody. They can't make it so only some people can attain that optional status. So that legal argument makes it such that laws against gay marriage are fundamentally unconstitutional in America, and basically against the principle of equality under the law, and they're in governments or states where marriage is treated like a legal institution rather than like a social institution. Now, I don't know if there are any place that doesn't treat it like a legal institution, but if there is, then this wouldn't apply there.
So okay, so I get it. So you're saying the law in the American thing is crumbling because it's not able to sustain the truth of the fact that gay marriage is also a thing. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that people, again, individual people, failed to continue to make the argument that they shouldn't legalize gay marriage. They shouldn't have a legal institution of marriage available to gay people for the reasons I
But that's
articulated.
not true, you're saying.
No, I'm saying they failed to they were unable to win the argument against gay marriage anymore for the reasons I've articulated.
Okay. Makes sense.
So when you ask, or already asked, Eric, why are you asking this guy's questions? Well, because I found it interesting so far, I guess, and it's.
I'm actually here to get baptized. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's probably time to transition on to other things. Okay.
Sure.
So thank you for visiting with me, and I enjoyed our
Pleasure.
conversation. And other people apparently thought it was boring, but I didn't think so. So have a pleasant day, and
You too.
remember, trust Eric to know the truth about truth and its respective truths. Or something like that. Whatever. Or something like that is one of the greatest statements anybody can ever make, because it encompasses everything. You're never wrong if you add "or something like that" to the end of your sentence. Unless it's really, really dramatically unlike that, I guess. In which case, that'd be another question. There. Here we go. So anyway, back to being a guru, okay? God, I had to transition into philosopher argumentation guy for a while. Well, he's the one who told me everybody was finding it boring. Maybe he was just playing FE defense, but I believed him. I wasn't paying attention to the chat. I mean, what I see there is basically an opportunity to get another person in the right frame of reference about stuff. Because his frame of reference is very common. That, like, I can establish you have to pick meow or meow, even though they're not contradictory, right? Or exclusive. And that everything needs to be reducible and blah, blah, blah. It ends up leading to nihilism because there's no arguments that sustain like that. Somewhat. No, I'm not worried about that. They can be offended as they want. Who's offended by it? What tard is offended by my thumbnail? Come on. Say, it's me. I'm the tard. Nothing wrong with that thumbnail. I'm a fucking guru. I'm the enlightened one, okay? When you're enlightened like me and constantly zen and, at one with everything, I am that guy. He and I are one, okay? Right now, I'm him and me, so I'm both of us, and that makes one. Does this mean that one may avoid nihilism by taking care of their frame? Is it possible to learn this power? Well, if you want to avoid nihilism the way that I did, then it would involve incorporating a magical thinking frame for some things, which is to say, Well, where is he, semi-singing? Are you still here? Hey, you know what I would tell you, semi-singing? Good. I'm glad I offended your stupid religion. Not an ignorant act. If you're offended by my hilarious joke, then you're too stupid to care about. Well, I mean, not if they're offended by that. If they're offended by that, they aren't. If that guy is offended by that, then he can get on his knees and open his mouth. I'll get the pliers, pull all of his teeth out, and then he can choke on my dick for 6 hours. I don't give a fuck. As if. I think that's part of their traditions in the Sikh religion, isn't it? Choking on dick. I think so. Yeah, well, I don't like being told what to do or not to do or say or whatever, you know. I'm way more on top of these lines than anybody else is. So nobody else should be trying to tell me. I mean, granted, if I actually did something that was offensive, I would. But see, it would never happen that I would make that mistake. You've got to be stupid to be offended by that. So, you know, if he wants to report or flag me, that's fine. But I'm a big believer in other people's voice. And if his voice is offended and he wants to make a video about how offensive it is, I encourage that. If he wants to, you know, that's what a decent human being would do, right? If he wants to report me, I have no way to stop that. But a decent human being would make a video explaining why what I'm doing is offensive and try to be convincing about it. It would never happen. You'd never convince me because, yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in drawing pictures of Muhammad with poop on his face. Because, of course, if anybody thinks that their vision of sacred trumps an individual's right to secularize speech, then the first thing we need to do is desensitize them to that so they get over it, right? Everybody in the world should draw pictures of Muhammad with poop on his face and show them to, you know, we should drop them as leaflets over the Middle Eastern world so that we desensitize them and they join the fucking modern ages. Like, for fuck's sake, who would freak out over a picture of Muhammad? You have got to be fucking retarded to think that that's a problem. Oh no, you drew a picture of my prophet with some poop on his face. These are lines on a piece of paper, retard. The only reason you think it's Muhammad is because I said it was. We don't even know what Muhammad looked like. How could I draw a picture of him? Think for a fucking second. And the only reason anybody could ever know that my picture was a picture of Muhammad is because I told them it was. Nobody would be able to recognize the most lifelike portrait of Muhammad ever painted as being of Muhammad. So it's the stupidest fucking thing in the history of the world. And everybody who believes that it's bad to draw pictures of Muhammad needs to metaphorically squat beneath my butt cheeks while I shit on their face. You know, if you accuse me of drawing a picture of Muhammad, I'm going to accuse you of the hubris of thinking you know what Muhammad looks like. It's a different Muhammad, a prophet of a different religion, also called Islam. Okay? Islam 2. Islam the reboot. Islam 2.0. It happened in a parallel universe. God, why are you killing people over science fiction? This Muhammad happened in a parallel universe. Yes, it's your Muhammad the prophet, but it happened in a parallel universe. Now is it okay? Fucking tards? I am not a digital retard. I'm just a regular retard. And listen, Bogdan, just because I'm the one who's retarded doesn't mean I'm being dumb. Okay? I may be the retarded one, but you're the one who's being dumb. You just keep that in mind, Mr. Bogdan. Mr. Bogdan Rexa Volkswagen. Is that what your last name is? Rexa Volkswagen? Oh no, Gandhi. You do not get to claim to be a Christian. Buddhists, Muslims, and Jews may mix up your salad dressings together, but not Christians. We're exclusively right about our religion, okay? In magical terms, not in logical terms. Bogdan Rexa Volkswagen, why don't you go get some beets? You guys like beets in Eastern Europe? Why don't you go down to the local quaint marketplace and buy some beets and go home and boil them and eat them for dinner with your fucking with your malted fucking yak's milk or whatever you drink over there, huh? Why don't you do that, mister? Why don't you have some beets and yak's milk? God. That's the thing about Eastern Europe. Everybody in Eastern Europe's breath stinks because they're always drinking yak's milk. Just straight from the teat, too. They like carry a yak around on their shoulders and just... Beets are alright. Beets are exactly that. They're alright, you know. That's the highest level they attain, I think.
In oneness?
No. In quality. Why are you worried about me? I mean, for you to be worried about me, genuinely, you'd have to be basing that on just no cues whatsoever. I've given no cues there's anything wrong with me. So it's like, do tell me what cues you've picked up on to suggest that I need some sleep. Absolutely, Jedi Ryan. Because, look, ENTPs, when they take on a problem, they want to get in and get out. Okay? They want to get in, they want to solve that fucking thing and get out. They do not want to stick around and wield power over time. It's just not, it's not a gratifying notion at all. It just sounds like a lot of responsibility and a lot of people complaining. You know? So we want to get in and out. In the process of solving the problem, we may make a lot of people complain. But the reason we want to get in and out is because we know when we're done and we're out, everyone will go, okay, actually you did a fantastic job. But, you know. Well, when did you hear any egomania? Are you taking the title of this literally, Bogdan? Please tell me you're not taking the title of this literally. Look, as I've said many times before, enlightenment is a ridiculous fucking notion. It's absolutely bullshit. It's the equivalent of a spiritual black belt in make-believe kung fu. Okay? So don't mistake my hyperbolic jokes for actual representations of what I believe. I don't believe I'm an enlightened guru, okay? In no way, shape, or form should you have gotten that conclusion for anything. I have an honest job. Why are you being so hateful? What did I say that pissed you off? What are you actually talking about? So you're lying right now and attacking me to try to get me to hurt my feelings or whatever. But the reason you're doing that is because I said something that made you mad. What did I say that made you mad? Be honest, though. Don't lie. I'm curious. I want to know. And this will be good for you too, because right now what you're doing is being spiteful because you're mad about something I said. But I don't see you as inherently spiteful. Oh, that's true. Whippets do tend to enlighten one. What skin tone was Jesus Christ? A deep, deep, rich purple.
Ooh, the indigo child.
It might not be the real Bogdan. I'm not sure. But given the sort of inflammatory nature of the jokes I was making, I think it's plausible that it may be him. I mean, if you're not accustomed to freewheeling American humor, let's see when he joined. The channel's over a year old, so it's unlikely to be linked to anything contemporaneous. Red Bar Radio sent a letter out saying they'll be back in the next winter season. Fresh News 247, who sends a letter out? Who sends letters to people? Dear friends, I'm sending this handwritten letter to all of you to inform you that, by a snail mail, of course, that I'll be back next season. Pin this up on your fridge so you remember it, please. Okay, well, the thing is, you've not established that I'm sick at all. You've not given me any reason to think that. You said I'm an egomaniac. I thought for a second maybe you just took my title literally. But I realize now you're clearly angry about something specific I said. You're not actually worried about me. You're trying to pathologize me as an attack form, but I'm very familiar with this attack form. It doesn't work on me. So try being honest and say, what is it actually that you're mad about that I said? What did I say that pissed you off? And this time, try not to lie. There's nothing sick about me. You've given no reason for anybody to think there's something sick about me. I'm Baby Pig Poop Face. Okay? You just need to realize that because I'm Baby Pig Poop Face, being a baby, a pig, or a poop face is not indication of something wrong with me. It's an indication of who I am. I mean, the TE of enlightenment attainment is very, very complicated. And that's just the beginning of it, Jonathan Basanti. I mean, there are several trips to cocoon within a spiritual chrysalis that you need to make by chewing up your own mulberry leaves, spinning your own silk out of your own butt, and weaving yourself said cocoon in the corner of a dark, damp room. Okay, well, so again, Bogdan, you're just being hateful. There's nothing, it's like simply saying that if I say, Bogdan, you need to visit a doctor, doesn't make you have a broken bone. And it's not going to convince anybody that you do, right? You have to actually point to something wrong with somebody before you get to say, there's something wrong with somebody. Yeah, it totally happens on a streamly basis. People, I mean, some people just hate me because I'm not losing enough or something, I think, you know, like, and they accuse me of varying things. Some people just are mad about certain statements I make and then maybe have the capacity to not be spiteful. Overall, it's hard to say what's going on with Bogdan right now. Right. Yeah. If you get any fecal matter in the cocoon silk, then, of course, you have to eat that cocoon and start over. but silk cocoons are the anthropomorphic form of Jesus. You know that Jesus Christ was a real superstar? I heard that in a play one time.
You know, a lot of people forget that he had a job, too.
He was a foot washer.
And a carpenter.
Oh yeah, carpentry. Does that count as a job?
Yeah.
That was just a hobby. His mother had a job too, being a virgin.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord! How did this baby come out of my puss? Host Eric, I don't know. People like you don't exist here. I mean, social realism is different here. Yeah, I guess I don't know what your culture's like at all. But I am an expression of somebody who's truly been enabled to be himself, be free and happy, and fully realize the extent that an ENTP can be, in large part for just pure luck reasons. You know, I was fortunate. I was born with a silver spoon of sorts. You know, so I am very empowered to be relentless in defending the values that are most important, in demonstrating that we have to disrupt this unfortunate tendency towards thin-skinnedness and reactivity, and return to a place where even fiery or saucy discourse is understood as preferable to a chilling effect that happens when people are easily offended and the people who offend them get demonized. Well, I won't be party to that chilling effect, that's for sure. So no matter how much people lie about me, slander me, demonize me, or whatever, they will never get me to do what I'm saying less. They'll always get me to do it more, because I will not be pushed around in that fashion. I just will not. No matter what. So, you know, what you get from me is somebody who's seems to a lot of people maybe have a lot of potential for success that he's blowing, or to other people who seems like an insufferable, arrogant asshole, to still other people who seems like an interesting person to listen to, like good entertainment, to other people, you know, people perceive me in lots of different ways. But the bottom line is, I'm exactly where I think he's INTP, vexed FE, is what I think. But he could be ENTP. Master Bobby, are you in here causing havoc again? Will you knock it off? Yeah. It says in the New Testament there is no male and female in Christ, so gender is only an earthly thing. I agree, there's no male and female in Christ, but Christ is a male and he puts his manhood in females.
So wait, do you think that there's like people who are related to Jesus?
Oh yeah, Jesus fucked his brains out at, you know, right before right when the apostles stopped watching him. He was just like, okay, I gotta go turn some paperwork in. He was just going to the whorehouse.
Wow, they thought he was good. I mean, everyone was talking about how good he was with paperwork.
Yeah, well, but see, even the whores, you know, they said, wow, I feel so clean and healed and refreshed from that experience. I don't feel degraded or belittled at all. And hey, Jesus, you know, that was really nice. I appreciate it. As a whore, I don't get to say that very often, because most of the men who come in here, well, they're more concerned about their needs than mine, let's say. But Jesus, you are such a thoughtful lover. You're welcome to come back anytime. So, you know, he had eventually this whole stable of of prostitutes whom he had to repeatedly heal of their venereal diseases with his penis. So it was just like fuckfest year 0, you know. Jesus, man with the healing penis. That's what they should have called the Bible. Yeah, he did. You know, Jesus was the only man in history to successfully have anal sex and it not be gross. That's how godly Jesus was.
Wait, who had anal sex? God?
Jesus was able to sodomize women and have it not be gross. Pretty impressive. Well, I do talk about religion like that, Bogdan. I think that religion is great when it's in its appropriate realm, which is an individual who is embracing their faith as defined. That which is in the absence of evidence or in the face of contrary evidence. It's a personal behavior like jogging. Just like your jogging habits have nothing to do with my speaking habits, so too your faith-based habits have nothing to do with my speaking habits. And to the extent that people get offended by me making jokes about their religion, I feel the need to continually make those jokes until they get desensitized to that. Because being offended about shit like that is evil and wrong and bad. It is wicked and wrong and destructive to civilization and humanity. The primary value we must all uphold is freedom of conscience and freedom of expression. Without that, everything is lost. With that, we can survive a lot of other bullshit. Klaus, no, it's just as gross either way. Because the thing that makes it gross, I mean, it might seem grosser to me if it's two dudes, but the thing that really makes it gross is not the dude-chick thing, it's that there's poop involved. It's very straightforward. You don't want to get poop involved, okay? Yeah. Hello, Eric. I think I have a crippling case of SI polar, as you touched on before. How can one work on developing SI? You're awesome, just so you know. Here's an FE sentence for you. I have no idea how you'd work on it. You don't work on it. So, being an ENTP means I will never do what I really want to do. Because I'll never really know what I really want to do. And I'll always do something. Some new idea or something that I've come up with right now or whatever. It's just implicit to my nature. So too for like an ENFJ, they will never have a repertoire of how-tos in their experience. So you may figure out how to do something one time. You're going to have to figure out how to do it again next time. You're not going to remember how to do it. And you know, the SI polar plays out in other different ways too, but it's implicit to the stack. You can't, the only thing you can do with your 7th slot function is basically, it's like you either live on a farm with a huge plot of land behind you, in which case your retarded child, your 7th slot function, can run around safely all at once, more or less, and it's not going to cause any problems. So if life's super empowering to you and super circumstantially good to you, then you can just not worry about your 7th slot function, basically. Like, I don't really have to worry about mine. I'm empowered, enabled whatsoever to do what I feel like when I feel like it, and that's it, you know, most of the time, except for some things that I have to do. They're for like work stuff, you know. Either typing sessions or working with students or whatever. But the point is, so it's safe for my FI to run around openly. I don't need to worry about getting hit by a car because it's out on the farm. if you're SI polar, the same thing is true. You got to determine whether you are living on a farm or on a busy street. If you're in a world that punishes you for your polar, what that means is that it's defeating you by attacking you on your place of least resistance, the weakest spot in your walls. You've got no implicit defenses in that function because you always default to the other kind of that function as a operational value and as a tool function, and as a consequence, you're never going to get it really, you know. It took me a long time to realize, and I can still sometimes apply it, although I rarely do, that certain kinds of things, it's okay to simply have a personal boundary that's not justified at all. And that would be sort of FI wisdom. I don't need to justify my request that you stop doing this thing that makes me feel bad. And the fact that it makes me feel bad is justification enough. So that's something that like was a epiphany moment that I had when Kimberly attacked in the wrong area a few times, and I realized I really don't like that. She needs to stop that, because what she was trying to do is rewrite my family history to make it so that my dad was abusive to my mom or something, which she never was, and I didn't like it. So it was that particular line of attack, and probably because it wasn't directly at me, but sort of ancillary to me a little bit, that made me go, oh wait, I don't need to justify this. I can just say, I don't like it, you're gonna stop. You know? And it's funny, it's like, that was one time where I didn't have any problem communicating with her, because I didn't attempt to justify anything. I just said, you know, stop that. And she, meh, I don't like it. But listen, you're gonna fucking stop it because I don't like it, and I don't need to justify it, and fuck off. And I didn't have any more problems with her from that, because that was me not displaying my normal weak wall there in polar. That was me saying, oh, suddenly I realized I can have a strong wall here. And there was no conflict then. In other words, when my demands were totally arbitrary and unreasonable, in other words, unjustified, I could get through to her. It was my insistence that it be a communicative process that she would never conform to, you know. The Jews will have a free pass. Well, like, who parses out religion that much? It's so strange. Like, do you actually believe that, Michelle? That when you die, you're going to get to heaven. There's going to be the Christians who are all celebrating. There's going to be the Jews who are allowed in, even though they're not Christians, but they have to stay over there. And then everybody else is going to be burning in hell. Do you really believe that? Oh, dear Lord. Here's my dad. Hi, Dad. Thank you. Tangerines?
I don't know.
I like it.
Came with the pears. So, yeah, I saw that. She looked agitated when she first got there, but it looked like she was cooperating with Lupe.
Yeah, she was. I was expecting it to go a lot from the initial, Mom's in it. Yeah, I thought, this may not go very smoothly. But she actually was great with the barber. She just, she was more calm inside than she was outside, you know?
Well, you know the story that I had taken her down there with me one time because I couldn't leave her. And so she came in, she sat in the chair. There were about 4 or 5 people in this right. So I got in the chair and I got up, King got up, and walked over and sat down. I looked at Lupe and I looked at all the people around me and said, and then she got her hair cut there before. So I don't know if there's any memory.
I don't know either, but there was a really nice guy in the barbershop when we were there who was very positive about what we were doing. So that was kind of nice, you know.
There's no excess problems or anything, so Damien, is that Damien?
No, actually, we didn't get Damien today for the first time that I remember. It was somebody else.
And the other guy once with glasses.
Yeah, it must have been that guy.
Another guy.
That was, you know, Damien probably wouldn't have been that late. But it was fine because I actually had the time wrong. I thought the appointment was 11, but I actually made it for 11:30. But it worked out great because he was 15 minutes late, so yeah.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Dad.
Sure.
Tangerines. Tangerine bobine. Meow, meow, mo, me. Okay. Enjoy your paganism. You're a pagan, Michelle. You're the pagan. I'm the proper Christian. You're a wild pagan who believes in weird, arbitrary afterlife rules that make no sense. You're the pagan. You're a pagan heathen. In fact, Michelle Way, I'm not going to lie, you're practically Islamic. I'm going to run a crusade against you. Who wants to join my religious crusade against Michelle's form of Christianity? Good stuff, good stuff. My mom is a pagan. I always say to Mom, hey Mom, at least you're not a vegan. God won't take your vile thoughts about pussy away, Elise says. Okay? God doesn't want your vile thoughts. He gave them to you for your personal enjoyment, so you should just wallow around in your vile thoughts. I'm not trying to make you go crazy carrying the STJ. I'm making fun of your nonsense. It's different. She's a soy milk pagan, which means she's not a vegan, but she just doesn't like milk. I don't think Christianity really takes a stance on the matter, Klaus. I mean, any more so than everything before 1700 had the same stance. Yeah, Christianity is exclusively right about religion. And Michelle's not exclusively wrong about Christianity. As are you, Bobby. So yeah, do I think you and Michelle need to spend a few weeks in post-Eric Sunday school to learn to properly understand Christianity? Yes. Am I willing to teach that class? No. So, yeah, I mean, look, it is true that you and Michelle get Christianity wrong. It's not true that I'm willing to teach you the right way. I'm not Jesus. I'm not that generous. Yeah. Of course, soy milk peons are a little different. They're low-level workers who have to subsist entirely on soy milk.
Oh, wow.
Michelle, I don't want to read the Bible right now because if I do, it might make me feel guilty about not teaching you about Christianity more. I agree, Rain. Non-Eric dogmatism is absolutely disgusting. If you want a good religious dogma, hey, where do you go? You go to your friendly local metaphysician, Eric. I will provide you with a perfect religious dogma, and you can ascribe to it with all of your heart. But in the meantime, try not to make the mistake of committing to the wrong dogma. Christianity is a very precise religion, but the precision of the religion is buried within a bunch of old words in a book, right? So you got to trust a real surgical metaphysician like me to pull out the actuality of the religion from the assorted bullshit that all those dumb dudes who wrote it put in there, right? Remember, like most people, every apostle who wrote a part of the Bible had a 99% chance of being stupid. So, at least 4 or 5 of those apostles filled their books with bullshit. It's unlikely that all of the apostles were INTPs. At least some of them must have been something else. So, even if one of them were an ENTP, there'd be some fuck-ups in there for sure. Now, what would the ENTP be best at? Simply extracting from the bullshit that his fellow apostles had written the real truths that matter and the real core of Christianity. Why do you think you're here right now, Michelle? Do you think this is an accident? No. This is God's will. God has heard your prayers, and he recognized that you need guidance. That you really want to be a good Christian. It's not your fault you're getting it wrong. You're learning information from the wrong source. And so, despite the fact that you're an ESTJ, through the mechanisms of the slab, Jesus and God pushed you here, not just today, but in previous days, to sit here and listen to me for some reason. Like, there's no possible other explanation why you're here listening to me. You're an ESTJ, and ESTJs don't learn things from me. Right? They don't learn anything from me. Now, I will give you this. You have upheld that end of the bargain. You're here, but you haven't learned anything from me. So on that end, you're consistent. But I would expect it to be painful for you. Now we realize why you're here. Why did God place you here? Because he needed you to understand that you're wrong about Christianity. Just like that's probably why I placed Bobby here as well. Why are you and Bobby here? Because God's directed you to the grace of my true words to liberate you from the enslavement of your falsehoods. You're welcome. It's what I do. And that's why, in not that super long, I'm going to receive a message from God saying, ding, you've earned it. What that means is it's okay. You've done enough work with Michelle and Bobby today. It is, in fact, time to go to the weed store. But I'll have to wait for God's message before we go to the weed store. Now, God's message does tend to correlate very strongly with me running out of the existing amount of weed I have. So I'm expecting to hear God's message pretty soon. But, only God knows when he's going to send that message.
Well, are you done with this last chicken?
Oh, yeah. I'm done with it.
And that was a message from God.
What I did last night, before I stopped eating that last piece of chicken, I give it a INFJ door slam. So I don't even want to look at that piece of chicken. Just get it out of my sight.
Alright. God willing.
Not Winston's mom, but Michelle and Bobby, I want you to hear the following song and remember it. I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me. Remember that. You gotta let Christ be your strengthening coach. Right now, you're trying to relegate him to the role of bathroom attendant. He doesn't want to do that job. Fortunately, Bogdan, statements, either affirmations or negations about God's existence are always wrong, in the same way that affirmations or negations about whether you want to go jogging are always wrong. You don't need to justify that sort of thing. It's not correctly executed when justified. So the important thing is that it continues to remain the same, that it is possible to pray to God in a behavior of faith, regardless of whatever else, right? So that's how it's always been. So God hasn't changed at all. God didn't die. God didn't go away. God isn't more absent from our lives. We have exactly the same relationship with God that we've always had, which is individuals can choose to engage in a faith-based behavior of prayer. That's all there is in religion. Everything else is the misappropriation of religious terms to secular matters. Just Jedi, remember, sometime if you're struggling with something, let's say you realize, oh shit, I spent all year fucking around on this class and now it's the final exam. I haven't learned anything, and this is French. I don't speak a word of French, and I take the final today. And there's an oral and written part. Well, remember this message. I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me. You just need Christ to strengthen you up to passing that test. So it's going to involve a lot of hard prayer.
and if you spell God backwards, it spells dog.
It's true. Why wouldn't you mention it in front of Rachel? Whichever, but God has us, we don't have us. I have to, but I wouldn't mention this in front of Rachel. If God really has you, then that means that you pray to God and try to live by some cascading frame determined through that framework, right? But it's not inconsistent with what I'm saying. What is all this? Gods were real, but then a bunch of Hebrews made your ancestors turn their back on them, and they withered and died as Yahweh. Demon gained more and more strength. Tulpas, man. I mean, to the extent that gods were physical agents in the world, they weren't gods, right? Because then they don't require faith, because faith is belief in the absence of evidence or in the face of contrary evidence. So you've defined your way out of God then at that point. Any kind of gods. It only counts as gods when they require faith. If they don't require faith, then they don't count as gods. And that's the key point to all of this argument. And why I do the kind of absurdist, kind of extreme jokes about religion and stuff is because I'm trying to make a key point here, which is, if you think your relationship with God is something other than your prayer behavior, you're getting it wrong. Now, I don't care for you to get it right, but don't get it wrong in ways that co-opt the secular world into the frame of the sacred, because that's not acceptable. Okay, Bogdan, I can't disagree with you there. That attains absolute concrete solvency. If your problem is being an atheist, it's indisputable that believing in God is a great solution to that problem. Nobody can dispute that. If that's your problem, then believing in God's a great solution.
Yeah.
And there, it really does have a good, positive, practical application. I'm glad you pointed that out. I wasn't being open enough when I hadn't considered that possibility, I guess. To kidnap someone sitcom style means you have to chase them around the room while some wacky music's playing. And when you tie rope around them, it has to obviously not be very effective at holding them. I can't believe you guys kidnapped me. Yeah. But that's okay. They're out for a wacky evening at the Regal Beagle. There must be something strangely sacred in salt. It is in our tears and in the sea. And also in the way I be. Okay? Remember that. And even in the colloquial sense, there's definitely something sacred in saltiness. So, I'm salty. Sometimes I get a little fighty and stuff. The reason is because, to some extent, the sacred links to clarity. And clarity links to certainty or confidence or, willingness to evangelize on some matter. Namaste, Christine. Namaste. So, I've taken a thorough and careful evaluation of your problem that you pose here. And the solution is you need to be able to see through the illusion of otherness into the holistic truth of one. When you're one like me with everything, you can be anywhere, be anyone, be anything, at any time, for any reason. It's pretty powerful. So, what you want to do is, for the next few days, to solve your problems here, Christine, when you see a couple of different things, let's say you've got this, you got this. Before you use them, you say, there is no torch, there is no cigarette. There is only I and everything. Keep saying shit like that every time you use something. Now, gradually over time, you're going to begin to feel more enlightened. Now, that's just a beginning stage, right? Other things you can do to feel more enlightened is put beads on. You can wear a robe instead of regular clothing. That's on themselves. You can shave your head. You could shave your head in one of those Middle Ages monk styles with a circle in the middle. That's pretty cool. It can be helpful to find a master and to call him master, because that makes it more Asian. And Asians are more, spiritually enlightened and stuff, right? But master, how will I know if the Zen that I Zen is the real Zen? Or is it merely an imitation Zen? The Zen master says, when you stomp your feet and it sounds like the laughter of kittens, you will know. Muse on that. Sit there in silence. Muse on my Zen koan for a while. Okay? When you stomp your feet and it sounds like the laughter of kittens, then you will have arrived at the next stage. Okay, now, let's say, Christine, that's not enough. Well, there's something else you can do to really increase your amount of spirituality. Instead of just like, I'm getting a drink, I'm going to drink it, you need to be like this. You need to have a little table in front of you and everything, and Set your cup down. Make some motions over it like this. Then go get the beverage and pour it as slowly as you can, like one drip at a time into the cup, so it doesn't splash at all. Just like a perfect, smooth surface of oneness. Never splashes. And then stir it exactly 3 times, even though you've added nothing to it. Because you want to make sure it's mixed together well. And then turn the cup. Bow to the cup. Open your hands and your heart to the oneness. And remember, be mindful in the moment. Feel the cup in your hands. Drink it in an exaggeratedly slow motion way. That'll help you feel more spiritual. I don't want to type you right now. It's like two hours and 30 minutes in. I'm not really feeling it, you know? At the moment. It's not that I'm unwilling to do it for free, potentially, but I just don't feel like it right now. You know? Yeah, you can feel the spirituality even through the digital conversion. I've developed a form of spiritual energy that, unlike almost every other form of spiritual energy that most gurus use, mine does successfully undergo transformation from analog to digital and back to analog again. So when my voice comes out of your speakers, it retains the magic sparkle of the guru's voice. When you hear other gurus talking on YouTube, the fact is, their spiritual energy isn't synced right so that it can manage to convert back out from digital to analog. On the analog end, it's lost all of its sparkle. I figured out how to solve that. And I haven't shared the information with the other gurus, obviously, because I am enjoying a competitive advantage. Anyway, that's the thing. That guy who has a gaze of miracles, it really does work miracles. But not through the TV, not on the internet, because once he converts his gaze of miracles to digital, it loses all of the fluid real-timiness of it that it needs to be miraculous. In contrast, because I'm so word-based, the magic of my guru enlightenment is it manages to, what it does is it hides inside the letters of my words. So in particular, inside the closed off little hole part of the E, of a lowercase e. It likes to hide in there, inside of O's sometimes. And that's how it is that my sparkle manages to survive the translation to digital and back again, whereas other gurus doesn't. It's been said that I finally mastered the perfect ohm, that all previous attempts had been 1 megahertz off. So I finally fixed that. All of Tibet wrote me a thank you letter. All 600 people in Tibet signed a Hallmark card that said, "Thank you, Eric, for finally fixing our religion." Well, the thing is, Chris Time, with great power comes great responsibility. Sure, I've thought about converting my power into some sort of death ray. Of course I've thought about taking over the world with it, but, instead, I feel like I'm doing more good here just opening people's eyes to the illusion of differentness. Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm a disciple myself of Leo from Actualize.org. Is that his name, Leo? What's that guy's name? From Actualize.org? Is it Leo? It is?
I think so.
For some reason I think I'm getting it wrong, but I also think I'm getting it right, so I'm not sure. Anyway. Well, the important thing, at least, is if you do end up, if some mighty male finally conquers you with his dick-like schlong of a member, then you say, yeah, I did change my ways. I used to scissor, now I suck dick. You were wrong then and you're wrong now, because your position is not that I am doing either. Your position is that I ought to do one. So fuck off. But I'm sure you will eventually be conquered by a singularly brutalizing mountain of man meat. At least with her extraordinarily cavernous and deep vagina, which stretches from her crotch all the way up to the base of her throat.
Whoa.
She needs a real hunk of a man. A real man mountain of man meat. Yeah, it could save lives, Elise. Finding you a man could save lives. I agree. You know, maybe at least as you identify a little bit with Leaky Leaky Lucky. I'll share you her video because she's not sure she wants a man. She says so in her video. Let me see if I can find it for you.
She's kind of one of my faves.
She's one of my faves too. She's my fave. I like her a lot.
Yeah, she's got a lot of sass.
I'm a Leaky Leaky Lucky. Okay. TWFP shorts. There it is. There's the channel. Nah, girl. I'm not out of your league. Okay, where's the Leaky Leaky Lonnie's thing here? You see, my name is Leaky Leaky. And I am a strong, independent woman. I don't need a man. Okay? To be okay. She's very calm in this one. She's unusually calm. Usually she's yelling at people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she doesn't need a man. She's a strong, independent woman. She's not sure she wants a man. I'm not sure I want a man. Okay? I have my green box here. I've got my hair thing. What else do I need? I'm not sure I want a man. Okay? I have my green box here. And I've got my hair thing. What else do I need? In order to access some of the some of the better Leaky Leaky Lucky content, unfortunately, I need to be logged in under the shorts account because it hasn't published yet. But my favorite Leaky Leaky Lucky video is when Tiffany asks Leaky Leaky Lucky, oh my God, is that present for me? And Leaky Leaky Lucky says in reply, no, it's Leaky Leaky Lucky's present. Stupid naked white girl. And then she walks away. She walks away because as I've made more shorts since the initial burst of them, now I do more editing. So like, I'll have them turn between lines so that it makes it look like stuff's happening. Anyway, she's a good lady, that Leaky Leaky Lucky. Yes, this fish followed me home. No, I don't know anything about no fish stolen from no fish store. Well, you go back to the church. You just say, yes, oh, totally. Me and Bob will totally go to the church. Because we hope to share with you the good news about the importance of adding sodomy into your relationship. Turns out, what I didn't get is that I just wasn't getting enough dick in my ass. And I want to share this glorious truth of heterosexuality with your church. Because I know how important heterosexuality is to you. So, me and Bob want to go and show you what we do in the bedroom and on the altar to make clear that we're heterosexual enough for you. First, he's going to stick his dick in my mouth. Then he's going to sodomize me. And that'll help everyone in the church to realize how horrible homosexuality is. He's going to play it like that, at least. It's very straightforward. You just turn everything. That's how you operate in life with idiots. You turn everything. They're always going to say something idiotic you can turn. And you just use their arguments against them. They want you to agree with them? Okay. Super agree with them. Way more than they want. See how they like it. You are so right. Oh my God, I can't believe the amount of dick I'm getting. It's absolutely fantastic. Mom, you were right. Penis is the absolute best flavor in the world. Ever since I've been with Bob, it's just dick, dick, dick. Day, and night. I tell you. I want to go down to the church group with you on Sunday with Bob. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the wonders of heterosexuality. Then see what they say. You were a lot less profane when you were a lesbian. Is probably what they'll say. Why, it's just this man seed. It's like, I wish I could spend all my time with a face full of cum. You would never considered being open to being with a man? Because this shit is kind of intense? Or are you talking about my jokes here? That's how you gotta come at people who are dumb, though. Make them... Always put the ball in their court. Don't let them leave it in your court. Don't let them control the frame. That's the key to winning those kind of things, or never allowing the bad guys to win, regardless. Is if people use bad techniques to argue, then the best thing you can do is say, "Why, that's a great way to argue. Let's also use this argument." And then come up with some other horrible thing that happens if you use that argument, And I always play, you're right, we should drop nuclear weapons on everybody. That's what you're saying, right? What do you mean? I'm confused. You just said, yeah. I'm trying to be a good Christian. We hate those people, right? I don't get it. Be as spiteful in responding like that as is necessary for them to recognize their own spite. Which is to say, don't actually be spiteful outside of the conversation, but within the conversation, it's good to treat somebody who's talking like an idiot. Maybe they won't attempt to talk to you that way in the future. At least that, right? It didn't go well when I tried to run my idiocy past Eric, so I'm not going to try that again. You think God would join you and your buddies at poker acting like he's really good at poker and shit and then lose all his chips really fast and then listen to Madonna instead? Not my God.
I think he was better chasing Madonna.
Not my God, yeah. My God would not listen to Madonna. That's a good point. Jonathan Basanti tried to sneak in that as a writer at the end of his bill here. That's a deal killer right there, Jonathan Basanti. But besides that, if I'm going to win money off God... I just don't want to win money off God, because either it's going to make me think less of God, or it's going to make me feel like a little kid that's being allowed to win by God, and that's not good either. That's not gratifying. It's a lose, lose, lose. No matter what happens, you're playing poker against God. It's a lose, lose, lose. If you lose to God, well, that's what you expect, and no skin off your metaphysical back, but you've lost your money. If you win against God, then you have to reset your cosmology, but you win money. And if you think that God lets you win, then you think God doesn't respect you, and it complicates at least your cosmology. Elise S. thinks that God jerks off to the Like a Prayer video. That's possible. I think he has it on loop. Like a Prayer and Die Young by Kesha. He just loops those two.
Okay.
Of course, for God, it's way up here. He's stroking it. It starts down here, but it goes way up there, way up into the heavens. That's how long God's penis is. Yeah, that's the thing. God definitely likes humor. Humor is godly. Humor is people engaging in ways that loosen the covalent bond between oils in the skin like soap. Okay? So people get very attached to their narratives, offended by this or that or the other thing. Jokes loosened those bonds. And part of the reason the jokes work is because people are strangely, particularly fussy about their thing, whatever it is. Some people have the same name for a bunch of different things. Like, Christians who are fussy about Christianity, they each have their own thing, but they think they're all sharing in something. But that's not the case. Each of them has their own independent, individual relationship with God, and there's nothing to be gained by claiming a commonality, because that's a universality. Every commonality that's claimed is always a secularization of that relationship, and it's bad. So the more organized, the worse it is. No, Elise S. Because we know that God wants people to not be sensitive and fussy and angry and fighty and all that kind of stuff all the time, right? Yeah. He wants people to be happy, joyous, and free. And the reason that they're so sensitive and fussy and fighty is you are not serving God's will for you when you're fussy about how other people talk about God, or even how you talk about it, really. It's like, what God wants you to understand is that he's not an argument. He's not subject to your arguments. He's not subject to being constrained by words by people like that. That's not how you get to interact with God. You have to interact with him directly by a faith-based behavior called prayer. And everything else is an attempt to secularize and communitize what's fundamentally an individual behavior that has no business ever being communitized. So that's the thing to remember. It's like, I don't come into these things wanting to get into arguments with people and battle about beginning level epistemological shit like I did at the beginning of this stream. It's like, okay. I get how enticing this notion is that somehow language can be extracted from the person, right? And turned into... Because the words we leave behind, the artifacts of our communication, are semi-permanent, right? You can read old books and shit like that by people who are long dead. But, Well, a given work may attain its own identity as an entity independent of the artist creating it for the purposes of our understanding of that thing. It doesn't. That's not a philosophical sort of cosmological explanation. That's just a piece of poo on a stick. All right, I'm gonna split, I guess. I think I don't know what's going on right now. Oh, we're going to the weed store. That's right. That's what we need to do. We need to go to the weed store. So, anyway, I've got one message to leave you with tonight. You all are doomed to eternal hellfire if you don't fall to your knees right now and pray the living shit out of God. Because you're a bunch of heathen, pagan, no goodnicks. Alright? There's something wrong with all of your guys' religion. That's the message I'm getting across here. You're doing it wrong. God. I channel my inner INTJ for one moment and everybody gets all pissy about it. Jeez, all I'm doing is telling everybody else in the world that they're doing their own religion wrong. Why would somebody be offended by that? I mean, after all, they are doing it wrong. That's pretty important.
I'm Sarah McLaughlin, and this is Robert. Every year, millions of dolls lose their heads.
Oh, Sarah McLaughlin, you're such a concerned activist. When somebody loves you, you know what, Sarah McLaughlin, it's more like when you love somebody because you're such a loving person. Always caring about people who aren't you. Don't you wish people would stop caring about people who aren't them? It seems to cause as much trouble as it does good stuff in life, right? Everybody just stop caring about people who aren't you entirely.
Yeah.
And then we won't have these problems where people be like Bogdan earlier, I'm worried about you, Eric. I think you're sick. You need to go get some sleep. The fuck you're worried about me? Liar. You're worried about me. Oh, you're quite the worry word, aren't you there, buddy? Master Bobby, you literally give up these stink lines that say, hurry up, make more jokes about religion, because I'm super and weirdly fussy about it. So that's reality, right? It's like, obviously, when people are saying stupidly serious things that are totally wrong about religion and God, I'm going to make a bunch of jokes about it to try to, again, loosen that covalent bond between the oil of their wrongness and the skin of their ontology. It's called soap, motherfuckers. Soap. I'm in a saucy mood today, aren't I? I'm in quite the saucy mood. I don't know why I got so saucy. His use of the F rather than the O really unnecessarily complicated things. Faux? Oh? I don't understand. Why are you so insistent on misusing the F and the PH? Yeah, Jeremiah Fix. Get your head out of your ass. You're using the wrong letters, okay? It's spelled PHF, PHF, PHF. Spell it right next time. Now, seriously, Jeremiah, Bobby, both of you guys, I sentence you to 10 minutes of prayer after this live stream. You get your souls in order with God, okay? Because right now, you've got a little bit of dirt on your soul. You've been rolling around in the dirt in your wrongness here. And God likes to sometimes put out dirt that leaves stains. Sometimes it's dirt that's easy to wash out, and sometimes it leaves stains. You never know until after you've rolled around in it. That's God's special trick.
God's special trick.
So you hurry up and start that prayer right after this. Dear God, I'm sorry for arguing with people all the time. And thank you for not striking me with lightning today. That's a good prayer. That's an excellent prayer. It's a prayer I mean authentically, you know? Maybe you should try that prayer.
To be authentic?
I only do two things in prayer. I apologize and thank. Apology being asking forgiveness in general too, you know, but I don't ask for anything but forgiveness because I know that God knows that I know that I'm already way too spoiled to ask for anything. So I have no excuse for it.
It's all knowing.
So all I can do is kind of like this prevent God defense where I try to remember to choose into this humility frame set that is necessarily the case when engaging in prayer, and mindset of gratitude as well, because I know that if I'm not sorry and grateful, God will smite me. My God is a wrathful God. Like if I break my deal and start drinking again, God will smite the fuck out of me. It's good to have a wrathful God, though. You know where you stand. You know, you either pull your shit or it's like, and he's wrathful, but he's fair. He lets you get away with a lot more shit when you're younger and stupider, and then gradually the path has to become narrower as you get older, and what used to get lost in the wash blows up if you don't attend to it when you're old, you know? You know, I think if God were going to go on vacation here on Earth, he would probably start in Northern Europe, in the nice, clean, not too densely populated, largely civilized regions of Scandinavia. I think after that, he'd move to visit someplace that's more primitive in Southeast Asia, someplace like, I don't know, some isolated little island off Thailand or something. I don't know. Some places still got some kind of, not like full blast savages, but you know, like natives that are just living in kind of the pleasant haze of third world day-to-day life. I imagine it being kind of a pleasant haze because I saw this YouTube video with this guy who went to take this treatment the savages use in South America, in which they poison themselves with this free frog venom or something, but they punch little holes in themselves, and so their limbs get all like puffed up. They have this big allergic reaction, and then when it recedes, I guess it has cured whatever was wrong with them, which was nothing to begin with. So, you know, if there's nothing wrong with you, it's easy to cure it. Jesus was hanging out with prostitutes, it's true. But they were just talking about fashion.
Oh, they're talking about fashion?
Jesus was a sneakerhead.
He was what?
He was a sneakerhead.
What does that mean?
He had like a shit tons of different Air Jordans and other kinds of Nikes
Oh,
and stuff.
sneakerhead.
Yeah, sneakerhead. Except, of course, it wasn't Nike back then. It was the Aramaic equivalent brand called Jew Shoes.
Jew shoes.
Yeah. And their slogan was, "The shoes for Jews." And he had the Velcros. So, you know, he was pretty pimpin'.
He was pimpin'. Is pimpin'.
But,
Does he still wear 'em?
well, you know, I think he probably had them in storage now that he's in heaven. But what I was going to mention was that the prostitutes at the time, the ones who were more high class whores who made a lot of money, Jesus was able to get them good deals on the Jewish equivalent of Jimmy Choo shoes, which was, of course, Ezekiel Choo shoes. They featured the same primary feature that the modern shoes do, which is they were extremely uncomfortable to wear and caused foot problems in later life. So naturally, the prostitutes gravitated to them like fish to fish flakes dropped on the top water of an aquarium. They hated his progressive views. Whose progressive views? Jesus didn't express political views, okay? Like moral issues about humanity, like individuals are upholding a positive moral good when they forgive, and that individuals are committing sin when they transgress. Those things are not political positions. Jesus was neither progressive, nor liberal, nor conservative, because he wasn't talking about politics. His position was, give Caesar his due, you know? Just because you challenge the status quo does not mean you're progressive. Conservatives can challenge the status quo too. What's progressive about that? That's neither progressive nor progressive. That's a religious belief. Religious beliefs are neither progressive nor conservative. They're just they're sacred. They don't get classified by secular terms like that. Okay, Klaus, I'll get behind that one. Jesus was a wig. Jesus was a wig, but he never wore a wig. He had that long, flowing hippie hair. You know, that long, flowing, blonde, blue-eyed hippie hair. His hair had blue eyes. Not just him.
His hair had blue eyes too?
He had eyes on both sides of his head.
Wow. I'm learning so much about Jesus and God today.
But the point is, Master Bobby, that not only that's not progressive, it's also not conservative. It's alarmist, maybe. No, this is so bad. This thing's gonna happen after you die. That you'd be better off gouging out your own eye and cutting off your own arm than failing to like get forgiven for your sins before you die and end up in hell. That seems the best word for that would be neither progressive nor conservative, but alarmist. Extremely alarmist. Klaus, you don't get it. Jesus' penis was a forgiveness rod. Everything it touched experienced just straight up stone cold man-cock forgiveness. Jesus' penis had the unique ability to both befoul the soul of another with sin and then immediately clean it up. He befouled them with sin on the way in. He cleaned it up on the way out. That's the magic of Jesus' penis.
Oh. Jesus' penis.
It's like adultery never even happened. It's like magic eraser. And it's a very antiseptic penis. It kills all venereal diseases. It functions as a douche and cleanser for a woman. It even eliminates ingrown hairs.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. So it's a remarkable piece of biological machinery.
Yeah.
Oil of Olay based their product on Jesus' man seed, or on an ancient report. They found Mr. Olay, the founder of the Oil of Olay Corporation, was actually originally an archaeologist working in the Holy Land when he uncovered a cave that had some copper scrolls in it. And when he decoded the copper scrolls, they directed him to a clay pot depository. And in those clay pots, he found a little vial that had been saved by a noblewoman at the time of Jesus' man seed.
No.
And it said on it, on the label, both Jesus is come and smooths, exfoliates, and eliminates wrinkles.
Oh my god.
And they despite extreme care in using the sample of Jesus is come, they only had about 40 experiments worth, even just using one teeny little droplet. And so their first lotion was just about 1/1,000,000th as effective as Jesus has come in eliminating wrinkles. But by the time they got to the 47, they got to their product Oil of Olay, it was 1/10,000th as effective, which is still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Still pretty good. So that's why that product became so popular. Because when people smear it on their face, they think, it's like Jesus is coming all over my face. Smells so not like normal man seed. Why is she randomly bringing up the subject of adultery now? It's not random. Adultery is threaded through this entire conversation. Let me tell you that, sir. There's been a lot of talk of ew. There's been a lot of talk of ew, scissor style. There's been a lot of talk of backdoor ew. So let me tell you, adultery is all over the place. Sodomy too. It's like a gathering between the sodomites and the adulterites. Who fuck their way to a generation of people called the adulter psalms. I can tell you this. If God were on vacation on Earth, anywhere on Earth, he would not obey the mask mandate. And he would just be like, no. And look, I'm sorry, there really are no exceptions, God. I'm not wearing a fucking mask. Sorry. It clouds up my God glasses. You don't even have any God glasses. If I did, okay, it would cloud them up. So, no. But I said no. I'm sorry, God, but the manager says you can't eat here then. Oh. All right, fine. Then God puts on the mask. Aren't you making assumptions? Aren't you making assumptions that Jesus has a position even on my sense of humor? Like, why are you assuming that he has a position on it? At all. I mean, sure, you could make the case that your position that you state Jesus has on my humor is more accurate than my position that I state Jesus has on my humor. But first I'd ask you, why do you think Jesus has a position on it at all? I have good reason to believe that. You know why? Jesus told me. In my heart.
Jesus told you in your heart?
Yeah. And it's not hidden mockery. There's nothing hidden here. Master Bobby, I'm openly mocking people who get religion wrong. Okay? Or at least I'm openly mocking that process of getting it wrong. I'm openly mocking their attempts to secularize the sacred. Nothing hidden about it. I mean, I don't have a worldview in which I need to proactively check with God if things that aren't prohibited are permissible. It's implied definitionally, things that are not prohibited are permissible. So there's no reason to believe it's prohibited. We have to operate in a worldview in which things that are not expressly prohibited, morally, ethically, or whatever, are permissible. So it's obviously, if you think God is good and just, if that's a necessary component of your God, goodness, then you agree with me. I mean, my humor is at least as offensive about religion as anybody else's, to the extent that people want to get offended about it. I don't try to be offensive in the sense like, I'm not condemning Christians, Muslims, Jews, whatever. I'm condemning all wrong expressions of the sacred into secular terms. Because that's where some of the worst forms of evil come from. Is when what ought to be a secular matter, that is, say, something that is discursively determined, is treated as a sacred matter, or when what ought to be a sacred matter, like your relationship with God, is treated as a secular matter, something to have arguments about or reference source material about. That's wrong. You're doing it wrong. Now, one thing is, of course, you can't really do your magical thinking frame wrong. But if you think your magical thinking frame is a good magical thinking frame for somebody else, then you misunderstand the nature of the frame. I mean, people are welcome to scoff at my faith all they want. The thing is, they can't, right? It's impossible to scoff at my faith because I don't attempt to use it to justify stupid arguments. That's what's easy to scoff at. It's easy to scoff at a Christian saying, look, we must understand the world as being 30,000 years old because that's what the Bible says. Blah, blah, blah. It's easy to scoff at that. That's attempting to seize the realm of the secular with the sacred. That's not an appropriate thing to do. It's easy to scoff at somebody who insists that this particularized expression of a biblical story is absolutely historically correct, as though that were a thing that could even be determined, and that therefore we should all believe in God because there's plenty of evidence. For people to say shit like that, right? They need to have that wrongness crushed out of them because they're attempting to annex the legitimate territory of the secular with their faith. But faith, again, is never justified definitionally. If it is justified, it's not faith. So you can't use it to justify anything else. So it's as simple as that. Alright, I'm done. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.